Hey, good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to the African Speaks. Welcome to the African Speaks. Now, for those who are tuning in for the first time, we'll let you know that if you go to the African Speaks Facebook page, not just the personal pages, but the African Speaks Facebook page, just the public group page, if you put your responses, we can actually have them pop up live. Also, you can go to the African Speaks YouTube page. That'll be up there as well, and we'll be able to see those remarks and put them in the show. And today is a different type of show, and I don't know how y'all Mother's Day weekend was, so happy belated Mother's Day for all those who didn't see the Mother's Day stream. Happy belated Mother's Day. One love. Now, we also had a major event other than Mother's Day this weekend in our community, and we had a homegoing ceremony. A homegoing ceremony. Now, you can see the wisdom up here, and I've been to several, over the time, quite a few actually. But this one was a little bit different. Now, the first time I went to a major homegoing ceremony that made me feel like it was a celebration of life was at the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church. Now, all of them are not always the same, and that might depend on who it is. But, wow, I went to one this week, and this one was for a good brother. Now, I'm gonna play him in the background, so you can see and hear a little bit, because I said to myself that I could actually do an African Speaks conversation about the service of this man for like a whole month if I have to. And that's how long he's, how powerful he's been. But he was, you can hear his voice. When I'm trying to tell you, he was the individual that one of the ministers said, if you want me to change black life, you want me to go build a church in every city, he said, I know two things. I need Brother Onaje and my sermons. And brother named Sondai Nairi said that he could change the world if he was able to preach after this man's voice. Because what this man's voice did, and it wasn't just his voice or the quality of his voice, it was the surrender of his spirit. Surrender of his spirit to the talent that God placed in him. And toward the purpose of the liberation of black people. Understanding that if black people gonna be who they're called to be in the sight of the Creator, we need to knock down these walls that an oppressive society built in us. And a lot of people, they don't really connect to gospel music like that, but they don't understand the power of that song or that soulful voice, that song that sings to your spirit, that lets you break down those barriers. And so we were going to talk about the fact that life continues. But I said, let's start from the beginning. We're going to start from the beginning and talk about the power of living in your life assignment. Woo. And if I can tell you this, the power of living in your life assignment, this brother exemplified that experience. He knew why he was called. He tapped into his gift, and without a shadow of a doubt, he delivered every Sunday for almost 50 years, if not more. That was Sunday and them. And he gave the community family, commitment, you know what I'm saying? Relationship, trust, feeling, an opportunity to feel what it what's like to be free of any psychological or spiritual bondages. It's what he delivered in his voice. My mom used to say, she lived like 40 minutes from the church, and I invited her one Sunday. And Sunday that old Najee was singing. And she sat there, and she looked at me and she said, I can drive down here every Sunday if they start with him. That's that power of that voice. And I remember that's his wife. I remember the story, what he told me in terms of how he met her. And we're going to share that on another day. But we want to talk about the power it means to live in your life assignment. And we're going to welcome my good brother back because he's been on the road. He's been on a grand tour. Liberating black people. You know what I mean? Working in our community, doing his thing. He's in and out. He said, brother, I'm back in today. So we're going to welcome back our good brother, Kalonji. Kalonji, my brother man. How you doing?
Peace and blessings, black man. It's a great opportunity to be back on the African Speaks platform and ready to get it in and fellowship with my brother and learn some things.
That's it. That's it. It's a beautiful thing. And I was being patient, waiting for you to come back.
Yes, you was.
I
Yes,
said,
you
man,
was.
if I have to build this thing all over and start from scratch, I'm gonna do what the creator called me to do. But I'm gonna try to also stand still and learn the virtue of patience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because when
So man,
building, according to who we are in our communities, we just don't do one thing.
right. That's
We
right.
just don't do
That's
one
right.
thing. And being true to who we are, we got to go when we call, you know. And so I respect that and appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, black man. Thank you so much.
Now we have another brother that I'm gonna let you give him his grand intro.
Yeah, and this brother right here, brother said we're about to bring on. This brother is a Houstonian who has been putting on for the conscious community for probably about 2 decades now. He's a community activist and a talented and gifted young man. I mean, I've seen this brother come into a room and ignite the crowd. He has that gift to inspire through spoken word and through fellowship. And so we definitely want to bring this brother on so he can share in that wisdom that he has. And he has his own platform called the Conscious Mindset that's doing a great job right now, bringing on the elders in the conscious community, the youth from the conscious community, and basically giving us the information that we need to keep moving forward and practicing self-determination. So we want to bring on none other than Brother Said from the Conscious Mindset. Bring him on.
There he go. There he go. Brother said.
Permission to speak.
How you doing, black man?
Permission to speak.
Permission is granted.
Ashe.
I say.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
brother.
Thank you. It is a privilege, pleasure, and honor to be here before such wonderful and esteemed brothers who represent not only what it means to be truly African, but also representing what it truly means to be a spiritual being, a man. And I think it's important as we stand in this place and space, and I want to give honor and homage to our dearly departed brother who has transitioned into the ancestral realm. And I want to call upon him and ask him for the wisdom and the understanding
I
to be
say.
able to convey and
I say.
captivate the way that you explain so expertly, and you invigorated my spirit to know that we are not here by accident, but we are here by design.
I
And the
say.
information that we are going to share is going to enlighten, engage, elevate, and not only entertain, but it's going to enter us into a state of mind in which we no longer feel that we are behind, but we're right on time. And this is our time. This 86,400 seconds, 1,440 minutes that we're so blessed with, and we call it the present because it is a gift. And presently, we are here in this space, place, and time to be able to achieve great things. So as I close, I just want to say thank you. And I want to salute the ancestor for bringing his presence in the midst. And I know that he is here and he's going to help guide us and direct us and give us the peace of mind to help our people to liberate, elevate, and obtain freedom.
I say.
No doubt.
I appreciate that. Now I'll let y'all know he's dear to me. So if I get emotional during this broadcast, y'all, it's just what's gonna be what it is, because it's
That's what it has to
exactly what it
be.
is. Because he's
That's what it
definitely in
has
the
to
room.
be.
Definitely in the
That's
room.
right. That's right. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. That emotion is something that's
Yeah.
pivotal and critical for our people, right? We are an emotional full
Come
people,
on.
right? We do everything we do. We cook with emotion. We eat with emotion. We talk with our hands with emotion. And a lot of times people perceive that to be anger or aggression, but that's our passion because in African spirituality, it's not only something that's a prerequisite, it's mandatory and it's made present in our presence in which we speak because we believe in spirit. It's in our soul music. And that's why it's so important that we go back to the drum, which was not only the first form of communication, but it was a way in which to communicate and
Come on.
elevate to the vibration of the ancestral realm and the
Ashay.
celestial. So when we listened to the drum, we not only heard the instructions from the
Well,
vibrations of
well,
the music, but we also were stretched in our elevation and consciousness so that we could tap into our purpose and do what we were supposed to do with our place, space, and time.
Ashay.
That
Ashay.
is, that is,
That's it.
man. And to add to it, again, we got to understand the etymology of the word emotion. That
Come on.
E represents energy. And that word movement, that
Mm.
word motion represents movement. So you have energy and movement taking place, which you have a physical reaction to that energy and that movement that's taking place. And so you can't do anything without emotion. We
Mm.
have to clarify that everything that we do is based upon emotion. We do it with energy, and that energy moves us, and it has a physical reaction, and we present that physical reaction through laughter, through sadness, through crying, through anger, through the different expressions of that particular presentation. So everything is emotion, believe it or not. And we are the creators of emotion because we are the first people of this world. And so
Mm.
we embrace emotion. And when emotion takes place, you want to give away to emotion so you can
Come
fully
on.
benefit
Come
from
on.
that.
Okay.
Come on. That's
Ashe.
it. That's
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. So, the elders was on to something when they say they caught the Holy Ghost. That ain't nothing to laugh
Woo.
about.
Come on.
Right.
Talk about it.
That's
Right.
sacred. If you
Talk
go back
about
and
it.
you ancient Africa,
Come
right
on.
now, they're still catching the Holy Ghost when they break out into communal experiences and they get to dancing and
Come
gathering
on.
around in holy circumference of themselves.
Come
And
on.
they all of a sudden get this overwhelming feeling, which is a part of that emotional state that they just put themselves in. So, emotion is the key to taking control of our lives.
And I appreciate you doing that, because we're gonna start there in terms of that the need, because this brother knew his purpose, because it said the power of accepting your life's assignment. But when we make it particular, he said, in my singing, I'm helping you surrender to your emotion, breaking down those walls. Because as black folk, we live in an oppressive society where we don't get to express ourselves the way we need to. And so, how important it is, because you have some individuals who say, yeah, I sing too much. There's too much music. Yeah, I mean, you're too emotional. But it seems like that's essential to who we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Go ahead, brother. Say it like you want to
Oh,
drop
well,
something.
I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that up because we are in Mental Health Awareness Month. But
Mm.
for African people, mental health and awareness was always a part of every month, every day, every minute, because spirituality was a function of functionality, if you will. It was pragmatic and it was practiced in a way in which aligned with the heart and the mind.
Mm.
They weren't in opposition. They weren't diametrically opposed. They were interwoven and interrelated and interpolated into the factions and facets and fashions of our lives
Come on.
so that we would use our time. We found ways in which to elevate not only the material, but more importantly, the spiritual and the emotional.
Mm.
So the connection with your mother, that's why they say mother's wit or mother's tongue. That first information that you gained was not just from an intellectual standpoint, because you didn't know how to read.
Well, well,
You know, you felt that love, you felt that connection, you felt that emotion, and that's why we still have Mother's Day today. But white folk and Europeans made that one day. When
come
we
on.
made it every day.
A
When we take
lifestyle.
of our lifestyle, correct.
Right.
So when I said to you in the beginning, permission to speak, that's a sign not only of respect, but
Mhm.
that's also bringing in the ancestral realm, because I
Yes.
know that the ancestors are going to speak through you
Through
and say,
us.
permission, that's right, permission granted. And then
Yes.
that vibration is going to be heard by me, so that
Mm.
I know now the instruction. I don't come in my own vanity. I don't
Right.
come in my own glory. I come in representation of the ancestors who sacrificed and who gave their lives so that I can sit here with you tonight, so
Yes.
that we can have a real conversation, which
Yes.
requires communion, which requires connection, which requires that we elevate not only our perspectives, but our understanding to a greater consciousness, which requires that we use our emotions, not for the vanity of being jealous and
Come
envious
on.
and seeing going to be the smartest in the room and all this nonsense,
Well,
this westernized thought because of the individual. But when we get into the African cosmology, the African
talk
spirituality,
about it.
we realize that there's a unity and there's a community and there's a communing in that understanding, so that we can build together, we can unite together, we can grow together, and in our strength, let me say that one more time. In our strength, we can accomplish and achieve all things.
Woo! That's it. That's it. That's beautiful. And so it takes emotion and it takes surrendering to it. Now, with this brother, the power of accepting your life assignment. Because everybody doesn't have the same life assignment. And so we spend most of our time finding ourselves, and how do you go about, or how would you say, because this brother, and his assignment goes generations. I found out during the homegoing ceremony, his son said the instruments that they play, drums, the guitar, whatever it is, was passed down generation after generation after generation. And then you would learn things hindsight. So he said, I was playing the drums for my father since I was 4 years old. Four.
Mm.
Right. So his father said, I know something's in there. So this is I'm gonna bring here to do this. Now the daughter doesn't play an instrument, but woo, that sister sings. And I went to her and I said, I had a class with the youth, trying to let them know accepting your life assignment doesn't have to be attached to an age. It doesn't matter how old you are. The issue that matters is when you make a decision to surrender. And it's not surrendering to your mom. It's surrender, or your parents or your grandmother, somebody telling you to do. It's that higher power that everybody feels regardless of their age. And so when I asked her, when did you know, how old were you? You knew that your father would be passing that mantle off to you. She said, I was 5. And then I paused. I'm in a room full of kids from 4 to 18. And she's like 30 something, right? 31, 32. And she didn't say I was a teenager. She didn't say I was in college. She didn't say after I walked down the aisle, or I came to church my first time. She said, I sat down and saw the power in my father at 5. And the same power that was in my father, I saw it in me at 5. So I'm able, at that moment, she knew at 5 what her life assignment was going to be. So watching, when I mean this brother, when he passed, and we're in the middle of Corona, because we can talk about it. They dealing with Corona shutting down and people not going to funerals. Man, I could have swore I saw 200 people in that building. And we had like 300 people watching it on the live stream. This is how many lives he touched. Now to have that, to have a sister say, I've accepted my life assignment at 5. What would that mean? The power of that, being able to say from 5 years old until whenever I make my transition, I know what my life assignment is and I'm focused. How powerful is that person? That's a
Very
question.
powerful. Very, very powerful. Pastor, I don't know if you want to jump in, or you want to let me respond.
Because
Um,
and if you must, because we're dealing with black people looking for who they are in the sight of the creator while we're in this oppressive society. And so
correct.
Right.
get
And
I mean speak to them on that point to be five and catch
you
it.
mentioned right. You mentioned, but see that's someone who is in their organic state. See,
Talk
we
about it.
haven't been in
Woo!
our organic state, so it seems so astronomical that a 5-year-old would know. But the reality of it is that if you're in organic soil, you're going to naturally grow. But if
Mm,
you're in inorganic, if you're in polluted, if you're in Monsanto's soil with Monsanto's seed, then you're going to be processed and you're going to be destructive unto
woo.
yourself, your community. So that's the thing that we have to understand is when you're unified with who you really are,
Mm,
and because she came from a good seed, she came from a good man. That's why the
talk
Bible
about it.
talks about the power of a good man. And when you come from a good man, and as Malcolm X used to say, the foundation of the family is the father,
Come on.
because from the father emanates these seeds. And this woman will respect and acknowledge him as being a man, and the children will do the same, and the land will be in order because the man is in order. The
Mm,
man is in structure. And it's
mm.
funny that we've been talking about the transition of him into the afterlife, because I try not to use the word death because that's a
Right.
European concept.
Right.
We understood that it was life after life.
Life.
Matter of fact,
Woo! Say it.
word death. And even if you study the etymology of the word life, it derives partly in due to the German. And in German, they call it Leben. And it basically was to stick, to adhere, to continue, to persevere. And I said, wow, even the European, as insane and as mendacious as they are, they understand that life is a marathon. Life is a continuation. Life is sticking to principles, purposes, and being orientated to your obligations, not unto your vain pursuits, but the creator that created you.
Mm.
That's why it's so critical for us to understand our history, our story, because there are still tribes today who follow it, and they wait maybe sometimes 2 weeks to identify what name the baby will be called,
Exactly.
because that name is not only an identifier for you to get a check or a social security number. No, that's an identifier to let you know who you are
Who
and
you
what your
are.
purpose is.
Come
And
on.
when you hear that, now you know your instructions. Now you know what you're supposed to do.
That's it.
Now you know who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to operate. So when you hear that name, that is not only recognizing who you are, but whose you are and why you are, because we have to understand, just as the ancestors understood,
Yes.
they were connected to the stars, to the constellations, to the nature,
Come
and
on.
to very self, Mother Nature. And I go back to Mother Nature. When you understand Mother Nature, then you'll understand your nature. And your life's purpose won't be a guessing game. No, you'll be in the game playing to win. And that's what we have to understand. That's what makes it so difficult for us to navigate through this repression, oppression, suppression, depression, is because we're pressed and we are not allowed to be ourselves. But when you're around a man and a woman who are organic, they produce children who are organic. And those children will operate in a fashion that's conducive for them to fulfill their life purpose. That doesn't mean life will be perfect, but they will continue to be working and lock in step with their purpose, and their philosophy will be the same as their activities. And you'll see a consistency that will help them grow into the divine, spiritual, and supreme beings that they were designed to be.
Let the Africans speak. Yes, brother. We thank you. Now, and I want you to bring home Kalonji, because when he spoke on organic soil. Organic soil. When you have someone growing and developing in organic soil, for someone who understands program and process, Speak on what you feel organic, because people sitting there saying, well, okay, how can I get some of that organic soil? You know what I'm saying? Because I know where I'm planted, and where I'm planted ain't organic. Because I'm out here doing some craziness. Talk on
Right.
that organic soil, brother.
It's like Brother said was referring to when you're talking about the power of community. Community is organic soil. That's the
Talk
symbolism in
about it.
organic soil is community. Our ancestors understood this pre-colonial Africa. The ancients understood that Mother Nature is the first teacher of humanity. And so this is why a lot of the philosophical writings of ancient Africa, or the philosophical oral stories in ancient Africa, are defined or have a pictorial demonstration of agriculture, because it is a direct correlation to nature. They understood nature to be something that was alive. And so when you begin to work together collectively and not individualistically, you are doing communalism. Communalism is something that only comes to life when individuals don't function as individuals, but they function as a whole. They function as a collective body.
Come on.
That's when communalism starts. Now, the power of this is that when children are birthed into this kind of society, they can receive gifts at an early age, and they don't have to look for who they are because the community assigns it to
That's
them,
it.
because that's the power of the community. When we're talking about the Black Messiah Jesus, it's fascinating that you brought up that this child was 5 years old. For we know that the mystic writers say that Jesus had an encounter with his parents about him leaving them and going to do community service. When they asked him, why did you leave? He said, don't you know I got to be about my father's business?
Come
And
on.
so
Teach that lesson.
Jesus, at an early age, understood that his father had assigned him to do certain things on this earth, and he went right to work because he understood his purpose and he understood his life assignment. Now, here's the kicker in this, because Brother Said brought up the power of the cosmos. When Jesus was talking about his father, he's not talking about some kind of sky daddy,
That's the first time I've ever heard that. Scott Daddy.
what he was talking about is he recognized that the very thing that had given him life, which was nature, was also the very thing that was going to define his purpose. When you begin to understand and decode the language of nature, you begin to understand that your life purpose is always going to correlate with community service.
Come on.
So you can't get away from communalism in your life's purpose. If you have a life purpose that is not about community, then really you're only serving yourself, and you're not going to get the best out of life. You're not going to get the most out of life. And this goes back to what Brother Said was saying. This is why we struggle with depression.
Come on.
Because we're not fulfilling our life's purpose, and our life's purpose has to do with our nature. It's something that is in us. Our nature is calling us to be our best selves. It's calling us to be our defined selves, our cosmic selves, because we're totally connected to that. So the moment when we start practicing individualism and we cut off community, we lose a sense of ourselves, because you are the community, so to say. When you can see yourself in other people, then you're awake, you're conscious. But when you can't see yourself in other people, your third eye is blind. You see what I'm saying? And so it's about understanding the power of the cosmos. We call in the Shrine of the Black Madonna, we believe God to be cosmic
Energy and creative intelligence. Say it.
So we know for a fact emotion is a good thing.
Well,
because if emotion is energy and the cosmos is energy, then we definitely want to connect to that, because the cosmos is always expressing itself. We call it the Big Bang, but really what it was doing was expressing itself through humanity. God, the cosmic God, having an experience in the human function. That's what life is about. So this 5-year-old child understood that my dad has my gift, He has my assignment because I come from my dad.
Come
I
on.
come from my mother. And when you can connect in that and you can understand that I am my mother and I am my father, you're already living the life that you're supposed to be living. I mean, Jesus said, I am my father or what? One.
That's it.
I am my
And my
father
father
or
are
one.
one. Wow.
He didn't say I am the father. The
Right.
is a
Right.
definite article.
Right.
He used the possessive pronoun my to understand that this father belongs to me. And so when you look at me, you're looking at God. When you look at me, you're looking at the community. I am
Come
a
on.
representation of God and the community. And if I don't demonstrate that in my actions, then I cannot say that I'm God. I cannot say that I am my father and I am my mother because that's the first community that I'm born into. You see what I'm saying? This is
Yes.
why it also teaches us, the ancient mystics say, honor thou mother and thou what?
Father.
Father,
Come on.
so that thy days on earth can be long. Now, this
Woo.
has nothing to do with our duration on earth. It's not talking about that. You would have to go back and understand the agricultural system. When it says, honor thy mother and thy father so that thy days on earth shall be long or extended, it's talking about the radiation of the sun. How long does the sun shine on your work?
Mm.
If you are doing community service, your sun will stand stagnated so it can continuously radiate life over the work that you are doing. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yes.
So in order to
Yes.
do
Amen.
it, you got to honor thy mother and you got to honor thy father. And our mother and our father is the community.
Mm.
It's deeper than what we think on the individual
Mm.
level. It's about understanding the power of community. So we got to be conscious on the community level because a lot of us we're conscious on that individual level, which
Individual level.
does not benefit the community.
Right.
But if we are conscious on that communal level, we'll stop functioning as domestic colonies and we'll start functioning as the First Nation people that we are.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Hey, I
Ashe.
tell you, amen for that. I definitely just want to add this addendum and continue on with that energy. They say that the law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. And that lets us know that the energy at which we have in our presence and that we are presenting and a part of will never die. It
Mm.
will never ever disseminate or be distinguished or extinguished away from itself because it's connected to the source. And that source is one with the mother and the father. And I love how he talked about the son. I love how he talked about even just in using Yahshua. Yahshua was the son of man, as many would like to call. And the thing that I think about, and I think it's important just to share this, is that in African spirituality, one of the things that I think that is most important is that I'm not just flesh, I'm not just blood, I'm not just bones, I'm spirit. And that spirit emanated not only from my father, from the sperm, but if you read and study, you'll find that you were not only in your mother, but you were in your grandmother
Mm.
because a female is born with all of her eggs.
That's right.
And when we understand that we are connected to our honor and our mother and our father, that energy can never be dissipated.
Mm.
So when I want to look at my grandmother, all I got to do is look in the mirror. When I want to look at my grandfather, all I got to do is look in the mirror and listen to the stories and the information that those who had the opportunity to see them in the physical form, that's
Come on.
together and we can remember. That's the point
That's
of
right.
remembering. Remember, reconnect. And in reconnect,
Ooh.
you can begin to revitalize, recalibrate.
You got an
And just
amen on
like,
that one, brother. Somebody dropped it
Yeah.
on the live stream.
man,
Now,
and,
that's
and,
powerful.
and man, I'm just saying, just like in the Lion King, which they took from the
That's what I
African
was doing.
experience, right? When he saw in the sky his ancestors, His ancestors in the sky.
Come on.
Don't forget, he also looked into the water.
Mm.
He looked into the water and saw a reflection of himself, which was one with his ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Jake, come on. Woo.
That's ancestral worship. That's ancestral connection. That's energy. Not created nor destroyed, but merely transferred and transmuted. So when you understand your father's story,
Come on.
you begin to understand your story,
Your story.
and vice versa.
Right.
And then your grandfather's story. And the thing I'll say, and I'll close with this, that is so important for us to understand is that we are not flesh, blood, and bones alone. But we are spirit. And that spirit is eternal. That spirit is not only profound and prolific, but it's able to answer the problems and give us solutions that will lead us into greater consciousness so that we can understand what we are to do with our time, our energy in this place and space. And it's not just to accumulate dead presidents.
Well,
it's not just to lay down with women.
Well,
it's not just to run our mouth, but it's to elevate the consciousness of the spiritual realm that not only we live in, but the physical manifestation which we are. Because we're only in these avatars for a certain amount of time. And we have to use our time wisely so that we can elevate the minds and the consciousness of those that are living. And due to technology and the expansion of our energy and our wherewithal, now we can live on into eternity, because you can watch a video from Martin Luther King who said something. And as I close, I want to make sure I etch it into your minds. He said, man has to alleviate two things from his consciousness so he can begin to truly live the life that he was designed to live. He has to no longer be controlled by the love of money, and he has to alleviate his mind, body, soul, and spirit from the fear of death. And by doing that, then you can begin to tap into this wonderful and profound energy we've been talking about for this duration of time. And that's to become truly a manifestation of African spirituality, which is oneness. And that oneness no longer is caught up in the past, no longer is a victim or prisoner of the present, but is also forward thinking, but beyond even what we call the future, realizing that they're all one and they were all created of the source energy to make us one and able and capable to express one love.
mm, mm, mm. And you say that one love. And when every time I hear that, I think about my cousin Jalil Houdini. Jalil, one love. I said it again, one love. And I asked him, what was the concept behind making that a phrase way back in the early 80s? One love. One love. You're lucky just to have just one. And it's not just in him, because he's Muslim. Half my family's Muslim. And it's not just that romantic scenario. It's not just that man and woman thing. One love is that movement of people, that connection of a group in unto what they were designed to do. Because you were talking about community, and we had a conversation, and I want you to reiterate this, Kalonji. What is real community? Because you have individuals who are doing work in their neighborhoods. You have individuals who are working in their, up the street, up the block. But what defines, using that African connotation, what truly defines community? So they understand that.
That's amazing that you use the terminology work, because you can work as an individual. As a singularity, you can get some work done, but that's not community. Community is net and work. Network is what community is, because network is about collectivism. So we have to network with each other. That's what true community is. If we're working as individuals, and as brother said, say our only plight is to chase those dead presidents and to elevate our capital status in this American society, then we're really not benefiting the community of our ancestors that we come out of. We have a responsibility first to community. And that means that I have to network with you and you have to network with me because we are of the same community. That's the confusing thing about American society, is that they're selling us universalism, but behind closed doors, those who were the engineers of America, they only network with those who look like them. And so the white man practices that level of community with white people. But when it comes to us, they tell us that individualism and chasing the American dream as an individual is the purpose of being an American, and that's what it means to have the American dream. What it does is it breaks down the science of African communalism because it does not give us the opportunity to network together. And so when we're using this word network, we know that there's a correlation with the word network and the word internet. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Come on.
And we see that word net. That word net is about entrapment, right? It's about entrapping something. So let me give you an example. When we're looking at, again, symbolism, because, again, nature is the first teacher of humanity. When we look at the brother Yahshua, the Black Messiah, and again, he's a symbol for a conscious state of mind. And look at this person as a real individual. You can debate about that or not, but what he represents is a state of mind. When Jesus was trying to get his community to stop being individuals and function as a nation, he stumbled across his disciples, these young brothers, and they were washing their nets. Y'all remember that in the gospel, they were washing their nets because they were throwing their nets out into the ocean, which is a representation of the cosmos. The ocean is very vast and deep, and they threw their nets out there, but it wasn't working. It wasn't working at all because they were functioning as an individual. That's the symbol of what they represented. If they were working not together, but as individuals, they didn't catch anything. He told them, throw your nets out there a second time. Now, when they did that the second time, the scripture says they caught such an amount of fish that they were not even able to reel it all in. And they had a good problem. That's called networking. Are you understanding? That's the difference between working as an individual and working as a community. The Black people have to work as a community because that's the nature of who we are. And so the only way to turn these neighborhoods, as our brother Shamari says, aka brother Charles Barron, say these domesticated colonies that we have been put into, we have to come together and network. And that means to understand that I am you and you are me. And that means that we have to do business with one another. We have to be the ones to educate each other. We have to be the ones to sponsor and supply each other and keep it in the family. We understand that once we keep it in the family, we'll begin to do the work of community. And that's what the power is in. The power is in the community. That's the great secret of humanity. Humanity is about communal living. So let me give you this. When we go back to the term cosmos and we understand the relationship that the cosmos has with the earth, because it's a community, the earth and the cosmos are one and the same. The earth benefits from the cosmos because the cosmos gave birth to the earth. Brother Said talked about the sun, the power of the sun. The symbolism in the word sun, the meaning of that word represents ambassador. The sun is the ambassador of the creator. So in order for our light to shine, we used to sing that song in church, let your light shine, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. In order for us to allow the sun to shine in our communities, we have to work together. And the sun rarely shines in Black communities because we don't work together.
And and one of the things that was said previously, not working in community creates that state of illness. It breaks us down. We are when we're functioning outside of who we were called to be. That
Yeah,
invites that mental illness,
yeah.
that
We have,
psychological illness, that physical illness, that spiritual illness. Without that, and so one of the things I want to add in terms of the brother that has me on this vibe after this experience was the fact that the community was committed. It is committed to the Pan African movement. It is
mhm.
bringing black people together everywhere. That's what this church is about. This shrine is about. It's like making a decision that we are going to be God's chosen people, regardless of what's happening. And knowing that black folk live in that state of dis-ease because we're not existing or being raised in organic soil where we're having that experience where our lives are connected to the cosmos. So that singing, his efforts was to, I got to break the bind that this ill state has on you so you can reach that sense of Pan-Africanism where every
That's right.
person you see is a reflection of you and the creator.
That's
And
right.
so
That's right.
when he began to sing, people around would get to that experience where they're saying to themselves, wait a minute, how you know me so well? How do you feel me so well? And realizing that this is a you're connecting directly to me. Why? Because we're walking in the same steps. We're walking in the same footsteps. And I want to talk about not just networking, but networking for the purpose of doing what God called us to do as a people. Because that's different. Because you can walk in communities that work as a community, but they're not trying to lead you to the understanding of who you are in the eyes of the Creator. And so that Pan African part of who he was, I'm singing for your awareness of your identity as a people in God. Gave more power to every note, you
That's
know?
right. Service. That's what
Right,
it's
because
about. It's about service. And we have to
right.
network in
Right.
the process of serving our community. You have a responsibility to community. Brother Sid brought up the Lion King. What I like about the symbology in that movie, The Lion King, is when Simba had forgot who he was.
Mm,
Rafiki, who was a Baba, Rafiki was a master teacher. He was there to make Simba remember who he was. And the only way you can remember who you were is for you to connect with who you came from, which was his father Mufasa. And so, in the process of Simba understanding ancestral veneration, that I am my father because my father lives in me and I'm connected to that same power, he had to also take responsibility again for his community because if you remember, he had forsaken the community. He left Pride Rock and he went off and he started living with a pig and a meerkat. If y'all remember that, he wasn't living with lions like himself. He was living with other species that were not even him. You know what I'm saying? So it's about taking responsibility. And a lot of times we don't feel like this is our community. We
mm,
got to feel like this is our community. This
mm,
is my community.
mm,
It's my Scarface said, "This is my block."
mm.
Y'all remember that?
That's
It's
right.
my block.
That's right.
We got to take
That's right.
responsibility. If it's your block, then the people who own the block should look like you.
Well,
The people who police the block should look
look
like
like
you.
you.
Are you
Well,
Right.
understanding what I'm saying? It's about
Right.
responsibility through service. I have to serve my community. I ain't come now to dominate it. I ain't come now to enslave it. I come now to
come on.
serve my community because I am my community. And so we got to get to that mindset. And that mindset can only come about when you're inspired to take responsibility for it and own it and
Mm,
manifest it. And that's going back
That's
again to emotion
mm,
because emotion can make the hardest thug cry.
mm.
If,
mm,
if
Well,
my brother Tupac, Tupac tells you, the prophet Tupac says that emotion can make thugs cry. And so again, we gotta uncallous our hearts because we've been calloused living in Western society. And a lot of us are so callous that we can't feel each other. And when we can't feel each other, there's no opportunity to network. Again, we have to plug into that same link, the internet, the same network, and we have to combine our feelings together to make something powerful happen. But if we can't feel each other, that's why we say that in the hood. I feel you, bro. I feel you. That means I see where you coming from.
Right.
Are you understand?
Right.
We got to go back to seeing where we come from, seeing
Right.
what's your brain, what you trying to communicate, what you trying to say. I feel
you.
If we
Yeah.
can't feel one another,
That's emotion.
we can't accomplish the work that we are trying to do. So we got to get back to emotion. That's about feeling each other. And as you said, as we open up, emotions is essential to our whole entire existence. We don't exist without emotion.
Absolutely. And just to say this, I think it's so beautiful that we're talking about this as men, because many times men want to act as if, we operate in logic alone, right? We get rid of our emotions once we become a man. But there's nothing more emotional than a man. Because as you said, energy and motion, which is all man is, right? Energy, and we're constantly in movement. Even our thoughts move, right? They move in and out of our head. We have 60 to 70,000 a day. But unfortunately, in the African American experience, almost 90% of them are negative. Because what's happened is, as the brother said, our heart's been made callous, but it's not the natural design.
Right.
See, we've been infected by this Monsanto's called Western society, and it's poisoned our ability to be in the right net. Because net means to be caught up in something, right? And it actually, if you look at it from a monetary standpoint, that's what you produce, what you net, right? That's after you give away everything, or all of your liabilities. This is your net. And the reality of it is, we have been in the net of a people who've used us to produce great wealth for them. We're in the land of milk and honey, but unfortunately, we ain't got no money. And why that is because we've lost our heritage. We've lost our understanding of who our friend is. And we're celebrating and supporting our enemies. As Malcolm X said, I want to bring El Hajj Malik Shabazz into the conversation, because that's one of the key and critical entities of African spirituality, is giving honor, homage, and reverence to your ancestors. He said, if you don't understand the media and you don't understand this society, he was correlating the two and saying that this society, this media will have you thinking your enemies are your friends and your friends are your enemies. So we walk around saying misnomers and nonsense like black on black crime, but not understanding that this society put us in engineered projects. You do projects in school, and the teacher knows exactly what you're going to do because they got a rubric, and it's set up and it's designed for you. And we didn't understand, we didn't realize that they designed these places to create disease. They designed these places to create the poverty mindset. They designed these places to be places in which we felt unsafe and unsecure and unprotected, so that when I looked at you, I look at you as an enemy rather than my brother, rather than a part of me. And even though we might have a different mother, we come from Mother Nature, and it's all one love. So now you have brothers and sisters feeling more comfortable and look like most of the people in the area. They feel more comfortable being around others than their brothers and sisters. So what we have to do is understand who our real net is, what the real net is, and then we can get to work. And I promise that, as we all say it, because it's an idiom and an adage nowadays, your network determines your net worth. And I think it's very important for us to understand that all we need is within our ability to formulate our unity and to strengthen those bonds and those cords with the proper emotions and utilizing the proper energy, so we can create the kinds of networks and that will manifest the kind of worth, not only in ourselves, but also in the output and the results that we can leave for our children. I'll say this and I'll close because I think it's important. The Federal Reserve just said that Black people are not only lagging behind white people, which is not news to us. We know that's why we need restitution and reparations. But they're also lagging behind their previous generations of Black people.
Wow.
They're lagging. Right, that's right. Behind the baby boomers, behind the traditionalists, behind Generation X, and all of these other generations beforehand. And they attribute it to one word: inheritance. Inheritance. So the reality of it is our young people know less and less about their heritage. That's why they're less and less of an inheritance. It's directly correlated. If you study, if you watch the people who purport themselves to be Jews, they force a young man to learn about his heritage, to learn about who and what and where he came from. Otherwise, he does not become a man.
Come on.
Because manhood is directly correlated to the men who came before him. And that's not even who he is. Because that's who we are. And we don't know. And we don't understand. And we walk around here playing games, not understanding that you will never be you until you understand who you are and who you came from.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
You're a representation of your lineage.
Come on.
And when you are irresponsible to upholding that, you vacate your throne, you vanquish your power, and you abandon your responsibility. And this is one of the most crucial issues to Black consciousness, is that we have to understand it's not enough to know the secrets of the mystic stories. We have to go back and recreate the community that they talked about, because there's power in community. If you want a miracle, community has to take place. And we can't build a nation if we don't function as a community. And so that means we have to be revolutionary in the idea of being individuals. We can't any longer function with the mentality that it's all about me.
Well,
we got to go back to understanding that I am my brother's keeper. You know, a lot of us, we have that Cain mentality. That's the whole symbology of the story of Cain, not being his brother's keeper, taken away from the community. If you read the story, we know that he was divorced from the community. He went out there and he lived as a vagabond. But if we are our brother's keeper, then we have to understand that I have to serve again my community. I have to die for my community. I have to live for my community. I have to fight for my community. All of that is the process of being a part of the cosmos. It's all about being directly aligned with everything that you are and everything that you are becoming to be. If we don't understand that, we're going to continue to stay in this vortex of suffering and oppression. And that's what makes us mad, because it keeps coming around. It keeps rotating, this oppression, this suffering, all of these things that we continuously see. It has happened before. We've seen the George Floyd situation before. We've seen the Trayvon Martin situation before. If our ancestors could speak from the grave, they'll tell you that I know Trayvon Martin. I knew a Trayvon Martin in 1800. I knew a George Floyd in 1700. That process keeps taking place because we've yet to understand the prophetic message that our ancestors is trying to give us from the grave. You must work together.
Woo! Woo! What has to take place? Right.
That's why the concept of church is powerful. Because we're trying to throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to church. Church does not have to have a specific religion subscribed to it. The word church is powerful in itself, because the word church is a component of community, but it is one of the first processes of community, because a church is, in the Greek tongue, is called ecclesia. Ek means out, lesia means from. Ecclesia, meaning that I'm leaving from outside of something that did not benefit me or my people. And we're going to create a new community of ourselves so we can benefit our own selves. That's a church. A church is a revolutionary act. And yet we're dissing the church, and we don't understand that a church is not inside of a building. A church is when somebody exits a society that's oppressing them and they go to build a new nation that is directly for them and their people. So we got to be, again, the church.
Well, institutional power. Now you're talking about
That's right.
institutional power and what that institution represents. But before we go in there, because that's a good conversation, talking about and explaining the benefits of institutional power and how the church was literally come out of slavery, the first level of institution that we had control within.
Yeah.
And it gives up to this point. So now that it's shifting so that it's relevant in today's time. And that's another issue. We don't want to get rid of the baby with the bathwater, but how it shifts so it's still relevant to the movement to our deeper African selves. So that
Well, we got to
It's
make
got
we have to
it's
make
got to
these
reach that
social.
word. Yeah.
No, I'm go ahead.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, brother.
Vincent.
I was just going to say real quick, it's got to re-network with what the brother just said. It's got to be outside of the oppressive system,
Come on.
not a tool of the oppressive
The
system.
system. Well,
It can no longer be this
come
pie in
on.
the sky magical thinking. It has to be real, relevant, and raw, just like the revolutionary that my brother has alluded to, Yeshua, better known as Jesus. He was a insurrectionist with the society that was corrupt.
Mm.
He was a revolutionary against a totalitarian system of oppression.
Mm.
And he was not talking about your reward will be in the sky.
God. Well, it was.
He was talking about let's make it happen now, and let's get free.
That's a
You
beautiful
know,
thing.
and I know a lot of people don't like that. Me saying that might not seem like something that you're comfortable with. And I would say to you, that's the problem with the church, because they're giving you a watered down version of a profound and prolific brother. And I'm happy that Pastor's breaking it down like this, because I'm like, amen, because this is the kind of liberation talk that we need to hear that'll get us in tune with not only what we're supposed to do in our purpose, but it'll also help us network so we can remember how to make the church work. Because a church is not only one of the most powerful vestiges that the Creator has created for man to use and utilize, but the church is primarily and foremost a part of the solution that will be the new manifestation of a new consciousness and a new way of operating. And it's so powerful and pivotal that we do not disintegrate our connection to the church, but we elevate our understanding of what true church is. And if we do that, then we'll be able and capable to tap into the spirit that Brother Paul on the road of Damascus, that light that he saw that was able to help him lead and guide his people and be able to do the great things that we honor and read about even today.
One of the things I want to add into this experience of that is the experience that is Brother Onaje. He knew what he was doing when he was singing in reference to bringing people back to a sense of consciousness. When he saw, I'm breaking down your walls, breaking down the walls that you got in European society, that illness, that disease. I'm bringing you to an experience when you hear the sermon coming out of the church about finding your African self, your best self under the Creator, connecting it to the ancestors. Every time he would before he would sing and when he would walk around, knowing that I just opened the door to your emotions. I just opened the door to your emotions. And then he would always, the most powerful thing wasn't always his voice. It was the challenge. Once he knew, he opened the door to your emotions. Once he knew, he had you feeling connected to God, feeling your connection to the ancestors, feeling your connection to black people, he would immediately say, oh, Najee ain't gonna be here for a long time. I ain't gonna be around here that long. What you gonna do? We need some leadership. Black people need some leadership. What you gonna do? I ain't gonna be here forever. And so I'm here to do my job, he was saying. I'm gonna sing my heart out and give my soul to this thing. Because I believe if we can come in contact to who we are in terms of what God called us to be, we can move some things. So my job is not necessarily putting the elbow grease to move some things, because I'm not black leadership. I'm spiritual guidance to get those who have called to leadership to accept their life assignments. Because if I can get you to that emotional state, if I can sing enough where the walls fade and you feel something for yourself and black people and the fact that God called us to do more, if you could feel something, his greatest effort after that was challenging us to be leadership for black people. Because we ain't finished. We got to be free. We definitely got to be free. And so in that notion, I want to ask, I'm going to make this personal. And I'll start with you, brother Said. When did you know? When did you know it was you, brother? When did you know? When did you? When you? It connected. Your mind, body, and spirit integration with the ancestral calls and the drums and the vibrations. When did you know when you let loose?
You know what? That's a very profound question, and I'm humbled and truly privileged that the ancestors would enable the opportunity for me to be present to respond to such a great question. I think for me, it's about all of the people who sacrificed, who bled, who gave of themselves so that I could be sitting in this chair talking to you right now. And it wasn't until, I became aware of not only the confusion that I was putting out into the environment, but also became more aware of the responsibility that those that I just mentioned gave unto me. So I'll just be more specific and just say quickly that I had aunts and uncles who were on SSI checks, and we all know how limited the funds are when it comes to what is provided. It's a shame that our people have been subjected to such menial ways in which to survive. But I was blessed to be able to see that experience in terms of people sacrificing, giving unto me their last, for real, for real, for real. And at the time, knowing that they were giving, being made aware of it by spirit and life, but not fully coming into the understanding of the sacrifice and the consequences and the long and hard and tough nights that had and must require to be given. And the reason why I say that is because the only reason why I'm living is because they were willing to get closer and closer to the afterlife to ensure that I had a better life. So when you get hit with that spirit and you realize that Aunt Ruby, that you realize that Uncle Shaq, that you realize that all of those people in your life knew that you were going to do something that they would not be able to live and see, but they know that it was worth them giving of their lives so that you could see it and that you could do it and that you could become it, so that you can inspire someone else to know that they can get captivated in life, that they can be a part of that network, that their net worth was far beyond what Chase and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch said that they are. But they are connected and they're one with the stars, just like our African spiritualities and cosmologies have always taught that we are one with source. And if we tap into Mother Nature, then we can begin to elevate the way in which we engage, the way in which we love, the way in which we understand who we are and whose we are. So I'll say in closing is that for me, when I was able to read about El Hajj Malik Shabazz, when I was able to read about Dr. King sitting at the kitchen table, wondering if he should go out into this march in which he'll be arrested and all of the other marchers will be arrested and they don't have any money to be able to get them out of jail, and the FBI was going to release files on him, and he had to think about that moment in time of what to do, and he remembered who he was, and he remembered the sacrifices of those who came before him, and he knew and understood that this was bigger than him, so that I could sit with you and you could sit in Atlanta and see and understand all of the greatness that was done that he wouldn't even be able to witness and see because he died at 39 in Memphis. So for me, this is about something bigger than me. And it's about what we've been talking about this time, and that's the community.
That's it.
And the community is not just those who have lived, not just those who are living, but those who will live in our shoes and will benefit from the sacrifices we have made. So that one day they will speak up and say, that brother was real. Those brothers were real. That's what I want to do too. So I'll just say to you, for me, it's all about listening to the voice of the ancestors and respecting our elders, honoring my mother and my father, and doing my part.
Wow. Ashe to that one. Yeah, you had me, brother. I was trying not to cry on screen because that's some powerful stuff. Powerful.
Man,
When you
it's
that's
so
that
good.
rush of that mighty wind. When you hit it, when it's about community. I tell we do Pentecost season and we in the middle of Pentecost season, and I said it's funny how they place Mother's Day in Pentecost season. I said because you can't get to that power without community. It takes a group to have that spiritual wind come through and rush through you to the point where you know I'm functioning from a power from on high. It takes a special group to get that done. And so this past Mother's Day, I said, you understand why you're so connected to Mother's Day, because that was the first human being you stood in accordance with the Father. It was the mother and the child she carried, where two or more gather. You gathered in one accord for 9 months. 9 months. I said,
Eating together.
Come on, eating together, breaking bread. You're right.
Breathing together.
Woo, breathing. Come on.
You are totally
vibrating together. Come on.
That's right. To the anatomical structure of your mother.
Woo.
And we come out of the triple darkness of her womb, which is parallel with the cosmos.
You need to look. I dropped that same one during children's church. I did that same thing. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, that's right. This is why the woman is so sacred, though.
Come
this
on.
is why we at Shrine, we venerate the Black Madonna.
Madonna, come on, say it.
Say it. That was anybody, that was the black woman. The cosmos is in her, as it is also in our minds, our hearts.
Come on.
We know that when we come out of that cosmos, we come out of that void of thought. And the thoughts that we do get, the information that we do get, it comes from our mothers. It comes from our parents. It comes from our fathers, the people who mother us and father us. That's a state of mind. That's a responsibility. That's a service. When you're fathering a creature, that's a responsibility. You are in the state of mind. You're in a state of mind when you're mothering a new creature from the cosmos. And so I would say, the thing that shifted me is when I saw my daughter for the first time. I was blown away. I had immediate paradigm shifts take place. I mean, if I can go back and explain it to you, I would say for a second, time was frozen. I was It was auspicious. I didn't know what to say. I had no words. There's a word in the Bible, mostly in the Ecclesiastes or the Psalms, called Salah. It was a praise break. That's when the psalmist who was singing, he would run out of words, and so he would just make up a word, like Luther Vandross. He would start his songs off, dooby doo dooby doo doo. All right, shooby doo dooby doo. Oh yeah. What he's trying to say, this feeling that I have become overcome with, I don't even have a word for it. So I'm gonna
Wow.
make it up. That's
Wow.
how I felt when I saw my daughter for the first time. I immediately understood she was my creation.
Mm.
She was a product of the holy union of my
Mm.
wife and I.
Come on.
I immediately yielded everything that was in me so I can serve her. If she needed something,
Mm.
I was going to be responsible for that something. Are you understanding? Because she was born into my community.
Mm.
That
Mm.
right there taught me how to be a man. I don't think I was a man until I had my daughter. Are you understanding what I'm saying? I immediately understood that I had to sacrifice. I have to fight. I have to get up when I don't want to get up. I have to sometimes hold it in and make certain decisions and certain actions that are not always in my best interest, but it is in the best interest of my holy community, which is my wife and my child. Are you understanding?
Mm.
That's what it's about. And so, if we really want to do what Malcolm X did, Malik El Hajj Shabazz, is the first thing we need to do is be responsible for the first community which we have, which is our families. Because he was a responsible man to his family, and he was a product. He was a product of a program that endorsed manhood through the process of taking care of your family.
Mm.
You die for your family. You lay your life down for your family. This is what Yahshua was trying to tell them, that I lay my life down for my nation because I believe in us that much. We gotta tap into that, because that's a part of being cosmic creatures. I often like what Brother Sid was talking about when he got to dealing with the mind, the body, and the spirit. See, we have to understand that this body, I like to call it an earth suit. That's what I call it, an earth suit. This earth suit that we're in is connected to our spirit and our mind. We can make modifications to this earth suit, but those modifications can only be given permission by the mind and the spirit. And so if we understand that about our bodies, then we have to also understand that the community also is a body. And if we network together, if we link our minds and our spirits together, we can make modifications to our body, our black body, which is suffering right now, which is beat down and downtrodden. We can lift it up. We can get it back healthy again. We can make it strong again, because we are, most of all, the most strong, the most talented people on the face of this planet. Nobody can do what we can do with our bodies. Black people can do amazing things with our bodies. So imagine what we can do collectively with the whole entire black nation, which is a body. And I wish I had time to go into this, but we talk about it, but it's wrapped in our religion, which has blinded us. And a lot of times we don't know that we're talking about us when we talk about Yahshua. We are Yahshua. Right. We are Yahweh. We are Jehovah. We are Allah. Arm, leg, arm, head. That is the anatomical structure of the earth suit that we are living in and experiencing right now. So it's about community service. And so, I was humbled when I brought my brother on, because he's an inspiration about what it means to be an activist in the community. He's always serving the community. If you call him and if you're feeling down, he's going to give you a sermonette about why you are great. And when you get off the phone, that's right, I am an inspiration. I can do this. And that's what community service is about. We got brothers and sisters out there who need us to serve them. And that's what we're here to do.
Man, thank you, brother. Thank you. I just want to say the same thing about you, brother. And you take it even further and farther in degree and distance, because not only do you do that, but you also give us the spiritual food that's so essential. I think that the words that you've said today just etch into my mind the importance of what not only you're doing, but what it's doing in the community. I've had people tell me, man, when Pastor speaks, hey, the birds listen. You know what I'm saying? Because, you speaking an angelic hymn, and it's so funny that you brought up Luther Vandross, because I think that if we really get out of the Eurocentric way of looking at things,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying that's what you were saying, but you were alluding to the African understanding is that that all of that is beyond the word, because it's tapping into something that words can't even express. And that's
Right.
what we have to understand is that we thought before we had these words, we were tapped into a vibration. If you read about Job and the
Come
brothers
on.
that were sitting down, they didn't speak for days.
Well,
But don't think that they didn't communicate.
come
Even in
on.
this society, they teach you that words are only 7% of communication.
Mm.
So that that vibration, when you hear Stevie, when you hear Marvin Gaye just do one of those notes, do re mi, when they hit that sound, when they hit that vibration, it taps into your emotions and it hits different. That's what the youngsters say. They say it
It
hit
hit
different.
different.
I'm like, it does.
Right.
It does, because it taps into your soul. And as we started this conversation, we're a soul people. And now they tried to make soul bad. Like now they say you being soulful, that means you're doing too much. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, the soul is never too much. The soul is exactly what will give you exactly what you need. And it will
Yeah.
help you be able to see and discern between the lies and the deceptions, and you'll be able to hear the truth. And I think that's what community is supposed to do. We always say it all the time. It takes a village to raise a what? A child.
A
And
child.
I want to expand that and elaborate that. It takes a village to raise anything, because
Woo!
the village is going to protect anything that it needs to survive. And anything that will survive, it's because the community has said we will make sure that it lives and it thrives. So what we have to understand is that the community is one of the most important aspects of our lives. So I will accept the term community activist, but I would say for you to be active in anything, it's because of the community that brings not only the foresight, insight, and hindsight for you to see right, but it also helps you express the light that the sun enables you to experience, and it nurtures you to be able to take the opportunity to use your talents, to use your tenacity, your sagacity, your intensity, your veracity, to be able to be a part of this wonderful and beautiful human family. So I think it's important, it's apropos, and it's so critical that we understand that we are, as the brother said, a part of a greater God body. And when I see you, I see God working in a reflection of myself.
Mm.
And
That's
just
it.
work together, my brother. So I think that this is amazing. I'm honored and privileged and pleasured to be in the presence of greatness. And I know that the ancestors have designed this. And I would just say, let us take some time. I know we're always busy, and that's on purpose. They got us busy so
Busy.
we don't focus.
Right.
Right. They got us busy so we don't focus. But once we focus, now we get focused on the real work. And the real work is creating an ancestral shrine. The real work is being able to tap into that ancestor that may be departed in your life, that you need to make it right with, that you need to speak with, that you need to talk with. And I know this sounds strange because they get us so focused on, Siri, and they get us so focused on Google, we don't remember and realize that we can call upon our ancestors
Ancestors.
to help us realize the things that we need to see. So that dear brother that you've been talking about for an hour, I feel his spirit right next to me. And even though I didn't meet him in the physical form, I'm being guided and enlightened and strengthened by his spirit in the spiritual ancestral realm. And that's real. And if we can tap into that, I think great things can happen for us
I
and our
say.
community as well.
I say.
That's right. Right.
I
That's right.
say.
And that's what it means to be a community.
That's
Is
it.
that when you pass from this life and you go into the afterlife, as brother said, life after life,
Mm.
you are still responsible for that community as well. And we are responsible to that person who's a part of that community. So we can definitely benefit from that relationship that we have through ancestral veneration. And what we must understand, a lot of times what has us so weak as a people is that we're venerating the ancestors of our enemies, the ancestors of our oppressors.
Mm.
And they're educating us to literally venerate and pay respect and homage to somebody who killed me
Me.
in
Come
a
on.
past life.
Come on.
Are you understanding? They owned me in a past life, and now they're trying to educate me to pay respect to that master in this life. And it literally drains us of our ancestral powers when we venerate the ancestors of those who oppressed our ancestors.
Mm.
And that's one of our biggest issues. I was literally brokenhearted, IJ, when I was pastoring, and I was pastoring blind at that time. I could not see. I was unconscious to this wisdom. And it dawned on me one time. I thought I was literally having a stroke. And I was sitting here preaching the philosophy of a white race. And the first thing I remembered is that when I was in grade school, they taught me to pay respect to Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr and Benjamin Franklin and Andrew Jackson. And I'm coming home dressed like these people for these school plays that I was doing. And I was brokenhearted when I was a man, and I remembered this, and I say, my God, they taught me to worship and venerate the very people who oppress me, because I have my ancestors in a past life. I'll be damned. And so I immediately start to change that, and I start to dress like my ancestors. So that's why I took off the suit and put on the dashiki.
Come on.
That's why when my ancestors from the cosmos spoke through Bishop Dejanaba and gave me the lane Kalunji, I hurry up and went and changed it on social media.
Come
You know,
on.
I told the people who would call me Courtney, God damn it, call me Kalunji from now on. So you understand it, because
Yeah.
I want to go back and redefine, renew my mind through the process of understanding who I am and what I've always been. And so that's how we get to this place of being conscious. You have to actually do the work. You have to be responsible, because I'm inheriting the life of my ancestors. And so if I want to benefit from that, I have to go back and pay respect to it. And I'll be damned if I walk around with an English name,
Well.
21st century, knowing what my ancestors went through.
I share. Respect that. Respect that. I want to add this real quick, because this is a powerful conversation, man.
It is.
And these are the kinds of conversations that we have to have, because this is the kind of energy, and it will lead to the kind of emotion that will lead to the kind of consciousness that will renew our mind, so that when we sit our behinds down at the table, we are no longer eating the food that will fill the bellies of our enemies and leave us starving and desolate. We are injecting our minds with the food for thought that will give us the necessary nutrients to seek out, search out, and obtain freedom, rather than finding ways to be comfortable in our slavery and our bondage. It will enable us the opportunity to tap into our children so that they're not controlled by YouTube. It will give us the necessary ability to love on our brothers and sisters so that they know that they're appreciated and they know that they're valued and they know that they can call on you and you won't press the ignore button because you are tapped into a frequency and a psychology, if you will, a philosophy, if you might, and a pragmatic practice that tells you that your spirituality is not just on Sunday or Saturday, but it's every day that you are alive.
Mm.
Because that's the key. Spirituality is alive. Your heart is alive. Your liver is
It's alive.
alive.
Well,
And that's the key. You have to have understandings that are alive. And now some people might say, well, why do we venerate our ancestors? Because they're still alive
come on.
in you. And not only that, as I said before, and I think it's amazing how the Creator created us, and even science and biology cannot disintegrate it. When you sit back and think about, again, as I said, the female carries her eggs from birth. And once a man becomes of mating age, he's able to produce life from his sperm. And we carry that sperm in our testicles everywhere we go. And Baba Pastor mentioned and talked about he and his wife, his queen, came together and they formulated the Holy Trinity, the Holy Communion, and created a new life that was sent here to answer problems and to solve problems and to provide us greater things to question. We elevate our consciousness, and there's no wonder she is the prophetess
Mm.
because she came from a prophet and she came from a queen. So just as Carmen said, he said the Messiah might come through me. And that's the reality that we must see. We always talk about the second coming and all of this and all of that. And I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but my thing is this is that if we are coming into this consciousness and this understanding, then what comes through us will come with an even greater understanding and without the deception and the lies of the devil, if you
Come on.
will, they'll be able to express what is real. And what better way than to say what it is than to tell the truth, because that's what has been missing for so many years. We've been told that we were Negroes. We were told that we were N-words. We were told that we were coons. We were told that we were black. We were told that we were this. We were told that we were that. But once we understand who we truly are and whose we truly are, then we can tap into that great information that comes with understanding that energy, that information, that correlation, that connection, and that emotional experience will lead to us having a consciousness and an awareness that will put us in the best possible position and in line and lock in step with the universe.
Mm. Ashe. 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 Brother, this African been speaking all night.
Man,
it,
man.
and it's a beautiful thing when we talk about vibration. We talk about sound. It was one of the things that I'm a roll back to was I was speaking to the Ashanti Queen, and as I was putting the African Speaks together and a lot of topics that we were going through, she was telling me in her she got a divorce from her husband, and
Mhm.
while they were standing in the kitchen, wait, something happened to my 1 2. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. While they were in the kitchen, she was saying she was every time he would walk, she'd make a sound. And it's not just like again, her mother was saying, "Look, you need to stop doing that. Stop making that sound in that tone because that's a curse." And it was beyond her understanding on this African cosmology, like you said, the sound. It depends the frequency on how we use these sounds. And so,
Right.
when you're talking about the power of song, how you use these songs, these sounds, how they open us or how they hurt us. And she
That's
said, you
right.
can't make that sound at him in that way because in our ancient world, that's a curse. You can't curse him with that. It's a sound. And she said, wait a minute, I understand you might be severing yourself as a couple, but he is still the father of the children.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
you
right.
cannot put a curse on the father of your children. So be careful of the sounds that you emote because not only are they our blessings, but they're also curses. And so
That's right.
understanding that
Right.
power or that frequency, that vibration in which we exist in, because we can absolutely use it to heal. We can use
Man,
it to
Absolutely.
grow. We can use it to develop. Sound means more than what we can completely understand. And just
I
that
get it.
vibration, like you said, everything about us is alive. And it speaks to who we are as a people. And it can change our reality using that vibration right,
that's
even
right.
in a simple sound.
That's
And this
right.
is
And that,
sometimes why preachers preaching, they preaching, and there's no sound coming from the congregation. Sometimes he said, I need a praying congregation. Can I get a clap? Can I get an amen? Can you manifest some sound
that's right. Yeah, I
that
like to see it.
coincides with the
This is
deliberation of what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to heal some spirit here. And it takes sound. And that's the power of using that. And there's something happening with my ear set, and I'm going to find out what it is because I can't hear y'all, but y'all can hear me. And that's one love.
right. Well, I'm gonna pick up. I'm gonna pick up. Brother said, now I carry it on. But brother said when he was saying that, it made me think about a message that I dropped a few months ago about the uh, the documentary called Blackfish that was seen on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. And Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Reuben Warren, who was a professor at Tuskegee University, he was really blown away by the message because he got something prophetic from the message. And he said, "Well, you know what, Pastor Kalungi, the reason why the SeaWorld Corporation could not oppress those whales, those killer whales, or the orcas, as they are properly called,
Mhm.
is because they had the power of memory. They would always remember their liberty before their oppression. And when you have somebody who has a connection to memories of liberty, memories of sovereignty, memories of ruling and kingship and queenship, you cannot make them into a slave because their memories won't allow them. But the problem with us is that oppression hit us so hard it knocked us unconscious.
Mm.
And we're like that person who has amnesia, to where we've come back to reality, to a form of consciousness, but we forgot who we were because for 400 plus years they kept us unconscious. They knocked us and they deleted our memories, and so we forget this sacred science and this sacred art that we once had. We knew the power of sounds and vibrations at one time, and we have to pick it up and learn it again. Primary example, I've never seen a more masterful, skillful, powerful and majestic artist as Michael Jackson.
Mm.
Michael Jackson understood the power of vibration and sound because he had the ability to perform in such a way and sing that people would actually think. I mean, anytime you had a Michael Jackson concert, you had to have the ER, you had to have the EMs out there because people was gonna pass out. And really, what it was is that Europeans had never seen that level of singing and that level of performance before. That came straight out of
Mm-hmm.
Africa to where you can sing somebody into a form of being healed,
Come on.
so to say, their emotional distress and healed from the bondage and the sufferings of their mind, to where Michael Jackson had the ability to just stand there and he would hit that pose and the crowd is going crazy. And then he turned to the right, and the crowd is going crazy. And what it was is he understood that sound and frequency was a masterful, skillful tool to fixing things that go wrong inside of the mind and the
Come
spirit.
on.
We gotta utilize that.
Come on.
We gotta utilize that. And one of the things that this society has tried to do is it's tried to make us use our own powers to cause our young children to go in this negative hypnosis
Come on.
where we say these negative things in a artful and skillful way. We are literally hypnotizing and programming our youth to be emotional less
Well,
and use and tap into the power of the emotion. We got to take it back.
hey, there you.
Go for that.
I just wanted to add this on because that was profound. That was really, really important, bringing up the ancestor. And they have denigrated him so that we don't connect with him because his music is even more powerful now. There was a film called White Men Can't Jump, and I'm bringing it up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Because Woody Harrelson's character was telling Wesley Snipes, you can't hear Jimmy.
Right.
You can't hear Jimmy. Because in the African's mind, if white people don't acknowledge it and accept it and say it's okay, and they throw up this symbol for a reason, just
Right.
like Elon Musk threw it up on Saturday Night Live if you were paying attention.
Mm.
Is that it's okay or is that white power?
That's white power.
He threw it up just like that. And you could say he's saying it's okay, but you know, in this society, white power is definitely okay.
Mm.
So the thing about it is this, is that he could not hear Jimmy. And the white boy was telling him, you can't hear Jimmy, but I can because I understand who you are.
Mm.
And it's not until people die, because we are in a dead consciousness, that we can actually hear Nipsey. It's not until they're dead that we can hear DMX. And we say, oh man, they're so deep, they're so profound when they transition. Because when they're living, we only see their failures. We only see their flaws. We only see the hate and the envy and the jealousy. But when they transition and they go into the death, now we understand what their life is about. And the reality of what I'm simply saying is this, is that just like Wesley Snipes' character, he didn't see any value in Jimmy until the white boy told him Jimmy has value.
Mm.
And it's just like what European culture has taught us today, is to celebrate the homegoing or the homecoming of someone when they die. Then we say all the nice things. Then we shed the tears. Then we remember and recognize how profound they were. Yeah, we didn't say none of that.
Come on. Now.
While they lived, we criticized them. We talked about them. We denigrated them. Because we were trained in a Eurocentric thought. And that Eurocentric thought tells us that you're going to die and you're not perfect. So I have to be the one to tell you that you're not perfect. I have to be the one to criticize. I have to be the one to find your flaws. It's my job to tear you down. And all of these other things that we attribute to Willie Lynch and all of these other concepts. But what we're simply saying is, once we tap life and we realize and understand that, wow, man, let me give this brother his flowers while he can smell it, so he can know, so that he can elevate in his purpose. Because as he elevates in his purpose, then I elevate in mine. Because I'm not in competition with him.
Right, that's right.
Correct. I'm not in opposition with him. Because I understand that I am a part of him. And being a part of him, I want to see him grow, because I know if he grows, I grow too.
That's right.
But we have been trained and conditioned in westernized thought, so that we are not tapping into that understanding. We trying to get a larger audience, and we trying to be more popular. We trying to get more money and trying to do all this foolishness. But we need to begin to hear Jimmy, because if we hear Jimmy, then we'll understand. Wow, James Brown helped elevate and grow Michael Jackson.
Right.
Michael Jackson studied James Brown.
Right.
He studied the way he did it and took it and elevated it
Jackie
to a higher
Wilson.
position.
Right. All of them.
Right, correct. And then when you begin to study those brothers, then you study the ancient spirituals that we call now Negro spirituals. We disrespect them by calling them Negro. There was no Negro in it. Those were African.
African. Come on.
Those Africans were using a language that they were forced to speak to our African spirit. So when your grandmother or your great grandfather would, and they started out, you know it, you already
Right.
know it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna touch your soul. It's gonna touch your soul. And now we have stopped doing that because we believe that no, we gotta go on the Panama, we gotta do all whatever these people teach us in music class. But that wasn't in no class. But that was able to give us grace and mercy and able to tap us into a spiritual understanding that was beyond words. And the European, the only reason why they don't teach about it is because they cannot control it. They only
Right.
teach you things that
That
they
they
can
can
control.
control.
And that's the reason why our people did it, is because they knew it would help us grow. It would help us see, and it would expand us to realize that these constructs that they put us in were to control us,
Yeah.
were to stop us so we couldn't hear Jimmy. But if you hear Jimmy, you hear Howlin' Wolf. You hear all of these brothers and sisters that came before him.
Yeah.
And then you begin to connect to what came before they came to this country.
Mm.
And then you begin to see how profound and how prolific you
You
are.
are.
And then when you hear Prince, you understand that Prince was a king. And it's because he understood his purpose.
Mm.
And he lived out his purpose to help his people grow. But what the folk would do, watch what they did. They only let you remember Purple Rain. They only let you remember Dove's Cry. So you don't hear Baltimore. You don't hear the Rainbow Children. You don't hear all of these other works that he
Right.
did that were speaking directly to your soul and to
So,
your spirit.
right.
You only hear what's commercial, what they allow you to understand. So you don't learn about the full totality of their artistry, which
Right.
would give you a greater not only respect for them, but it will also help you to understand the consciousness of them so that you could emanate and grow from that in your purpose. You might not get on the guitar, you might not get on the microphone, but you'll begin to elevate whatever you do, and you'll be at home and at peace with who you are. I don't mean to go so long-winded,
That's
but I'm
fine.
just hopefully trying and say to us is that once we do what brother said and tap into our ancestors like Michael Jackson, and we understand their flaws and we understand their greatness, then we can begin to elevate from them, and then we can learn from their mistakes, and then we can teach the youth. Because I'm gonna tell you the truth, man, other than a couple songs, they might not even know Michael Jackson.
Right.
And the way society has made it,
I
they
don't
not gonna
know.
teach Michael Jackson.
I don't know. Michael is one that transcends generations. Now, I want to connect what you were saying to what happened this past weekend, because Onaje's, when his son started speaking, he said, Onaje literally said, when you have this talent of sound, singing, this gift, European society has a habit of removing you from what God would have you use it for and use it within the world. To take it away from that spiritual environment to put it in that commercial environment so that they can benefit. He said, I can't tell you how many people came to Onaje to pull Onaje away from the church. But that's not my assignment. That was not my life call. My life call is to use this gift to open you up to a higher vibration so that you can access who God called you to be. So every time his kids would speak about something, he would stop and say, so what about the church? What about the community that's trying to liberate black people in this European society? What about the community? Because this is why I sing. It's not to entertain. I'm not here. They commercialize it because they see the gift that God put in me. And so you want to use the gift that God put in me for your riches. But he said, I'm here to free a spirit. Lauryn Hill said, you know how many Lauryn Hills are in the hood? And the only thing that separates me from that other sister is opportunity. Because we are in an oppressed society. How many people have that
Right.
skill set of sound? That if given the right opportunity and stage, they could heal and free millions. And that's why you, like you said, they have to control it. Because if Michael Jackson, imagine now, singing was his talent. What he did, I always say he never really accessed what he was assigned to do. Only some of the songs that he wrote was written in code, because they talk about that too. Even Prince wrote in code to give you some food on what's going out here in the entertainment world. They some of the, and that's why they said, I don't know how to conspiracy theory why they had to get rid of both of them, because that code was getting louder and louder. The code of some of those songs, if you break it down, it gets louder and louder. It's just like the movie The Matrix. Some of their songs were telling stories that they were not supposed to say. Now imagine having somebody sing for the purpose of liberating a spirit from its bondage to this earthly world to access that spiritual identity of who they are. Imagine that. Imagine having a Michael who wants to say, I need to free every black spirit that hears the sound of my voice. Like he said, he understood vibration. Imagine somebody who comes forth to say, I'm going to take this vibration, and every move, every dance, every hit, every hee is going to be used to liberate a mind or a spirit from this earthly bondage. And I'm going to send them to an experience where they see who they are in God. And so when the European society sees that talent, oh, we got to give it. We got to control it. We got to move it. We got to orchestrate it. Why? So because we can't let them use it for what they truly are called for. We can't let that happen. We can't let that talent go. Again, we're talking about the power of living your life's assignment. And as black people living in this state, any black person born and under this time, your assignment is to assist on this Pan-African movement, opening up our mindset so that we can get back to who God called us to be. Not so that we can live comfortably in society, so that us as a whole can move back into control of all aspects of our lives. And that's one time the Shrines of the Black Mother talked about, you know what? We need an entertainment company. We need entertainment. We need to be able to influence black people when they least expect it. Because when you come into a church, you expect an opening. But when you're sitting there turning on the radio, if you're listening to what they call secular music, and at one point the spiritual arena had to come across and say, we need to create sound that can be played during secular times to have a spiritual emotion. All of a sudden, music has changed, and now music needs to have a different message to it. Why? Because we're realizing that they're controlling this entity to keep us shut down. So what happens when we know that the power of sound, the power of vibrations, the power of frequency, and know that there's something placed in you where you are the orchestrator on that. And like we said, having those ancestors, one brother said, speak to your ancestors and have them to spit on you. I said, excuse me, brother? My understanding of spitting on me didn't come across clear. He said, because when you ask an ancestor to spit on you, it's give me what is needed for someone else to hear my words and receive them. Give me the ability to orientate sound in word or frequency so that they can feel me, spit on me, whisper in my ear something so that I can change life. And that's where this has to go. Black folk, we can't move forward until you accept the assignment that connects you to who you are and who we are as a people. That's important. Because other than that, all we doing is learning how to live in an oppressive society. And I wish, and I give him all praises because they did, Michael Jackson did the best he could with what he had. Always say that.
That's it.
The
That's
best he
it.
could with what he had.
I just want
DMX.
to say this real quick.
Go ahead.
About not to cut you off because I think it's important to say this. Entertainment is how they're attacking us. When you look up the
Right.
word entertainment, it means to enter in, and
Mm.
tain is a Latin word for to hold.
Mm.
So when you see our young people talking about, they listen to trap music, and I even see old heads, people older than me and my age talking about they listening to trap music. I say you ought to be ashamed of yourself. But I understand why we do it. I know because that creates a consciousness. You're in a trap. It's no wonder you listen to trap music
Mm.
because you are being entered into or put into a state of mind, a state of being.
Mm.
When a bird gets in a trap, when a mouse gets in a trap, when a bear gets in a trap, eventually they die.
Mm.
And when we look at the statistical data in health, in wealth, and in well-being, Black people are screaming out, we are dying.
Mm.
We lost 2.7 years, according to the CDC, in 1 year of life expectancy. And I'm going to go ahead and speak to this, and because I love what you were about to say about DMX. But the thing that I wanted to say is this brother was calling out. He was literally the reflection of the Black man at his time. He was saying, I want to be
I need
righteous.
help.
I want to do what's right. I'm coming from the depths of hell. I was mistreated. I was beaten. I was put into juvenile detention centers. All I wanted was love. All I wanted was guidance. All I wanted was hope. All I wanted was order. All I wanted was structure. I got pain. And now it's blood of my blood, flesh of my flesh.
Mm-hmm.
It's dark. Hell is hot. Do you
Mhm.
understand? So all
Yeah,
of these
yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
saying he was talking to our spirit, but he was living in a spiritual hell. He was
Mm.
living in a place that was creating the kind of chaos that ultimately cost his life.
Mm.
And this is what we have to understand tonight, my brothers and my sisters, is that the music, as they always love to say, life imitates art and art imitates life. But those who control the puppets, those masters know and understand that we listen to these messages and they become our orator. They become our prophet. They become our Jeremiah, and they become our Isaiah, and they create some of the things that happen to us day to day. That's why they have to control the music. If you remember going back to when Michael Jackson first started, you remember he was in a group and it was called the Jackson what?
5. Well, that's
It was
it.
5 brothers.
Right.
And they were all playing instruments. And they were being led by a mother and a father. A mother that submitted to a father. And no, he wasn't perfect, nor am I, and neither one are you. But he was a man that loved his children.
Mm.
And had he been given opportunities to love them in a way in which was good and healing and helpful, he probably would have been better.
Mm.
But he was what he was, and he doesn't even get the respect in this hellish of a society that denigrates us, disrespects us, and downgrades us every chance it gets. He was able to raise 5, 6 healthy, 9, 10 healthy kids. We need to be giving honor to our ancestors and our elders for going through all of the depths of denigration, disrespect, and raising all of these children that they did. And many of them have went on to do great things like Michael Jackson. And I'll close with this, but I think it's important to say they took away the instrumentation and they took away the groups. So now we see in music, what do we see? We see inorganic sounds coming from beat machines, coming from electronic technology. that separates us from the soul of the instrumentation by and large.
Mm.
And we don't see the groups. We don't see the SWVs and the escapes. That's why we get so excited when they're on verses, because now we see individuals
Right.
and we see selfishness and more egotism rather than more unity and community. So I'll close and understand and say, if you want to look at the health of a people, look at their music.
Right.
Look at their music and look at their
Wow.
art. And right now we're in a trap. So we have to wake up and elevate and listen to what Pastor's saying and what you're saying, dear brother, because it's going to help us, lead us, and guide us back on the right track.
Right. Yeah. See, singing is a sacred expression of art. It is a way of communicating on a emotional level that you cannot reach when you're just talking. And so singing is a discovery of the ancient African. Like
Come
we
on.
discovered thought. We know for a fact that the black woman created thought. She gave credence to thought. And that's what we understood. Not only are we cosmic energy, but we are also creative intelligence. So going back to this, because Ajay and brother said y'all are powerful, man, in bringing out that there's a message in music. There's a code in music. There's always something hidden. And you brought out it beautifully when you said brother DMX was trying to speak out that we need help. He was a spokesman for the black man, the wretched black man. I'm talking about that black man who's wretched. And we know that that wretched black man is a restless black man. A black man who's frustrated, mind, body, and spirit. He's angry, he's displaced, and he's trying to breathe. He's trying to breathe. DMX had a song called I'm Slipping. I'm falling.
I can't get up.
And he says it throughout the song over and over and over again about his hardships of trying to get up, but he's continuing this pattern of flipping and falling and getting back on the ground. It's a powerful song, but at the same time, if you identify with it, it can make you emotionally sad because we know that to be us as well. We are in this vortex, and I say this vortex because it's not a whirlwind. Whirlwinds have to do with that air and that cosmic air that we get our life from. But a vortex is something that is man-made. It's an illusion to keep us in a sunken place. And if we don't listen to how we express our emotions, a lot of times we won't hear our own cry for aid. We are crying for aid at times. A lot of times, what I learned, you never knew what kind of Sunday church would bring because all of the church experiences is a expression of the people who come. And I picked that up as a pastor. Sometime I would have this fiery, dynamic sermon. I said, I'm going to drop this on them today. They're going to be jumping and running around and happy and stuff. But I would drop the message and people were crying. People were downcast and they were depressed because this is what they were bringing, the energy they were bringing to the communal holy circumference. So going back to this, the way we combat this, the way we fight back is, again, what you were saying, Brother Ajay, we have to struggle for our liberation. And music is one of the ways we struggle for our liberation. That means we have to endure and we have to promote those brothers and sisters who are doing the opposite of the oppressing system. When it comes to their music, they're liberating young black minds. Like our brother, very own brother in H-Town, Toby Ngwa. Toby Ngwa is bringing that kind of soulful music that lifts you up. You see what I'm saying? He has a song called They Thought I Was Broke, but Erykah Badu and Dave Chappelle said that I'm dope. And so this brother has come up with a new definition for the word dope. And we know dope is something that takes you out of your mind. Dope is something that makes you feel things that are not real. But this brother, because of his artistry and his masterful prophetic self, he says, I'm going to go back and I'm going to redefine the word, and I'm going to say that dope is a good thing because Dave Chappelle and Erykah Badu said that I was dope, and that means that I'm gifted. That means that I don't have to smoke something or drink something in order to feel high. I vibrate on a high level. And that's the kind of artists we have to endorse. And we have to promote those people because they're revolutionary in their acts and going against these systems that are oppressing us and trying to, as Brother Said was saying, entertain us, because we understand the real etymology of the word entertainment. And it's so funny that that word entertainment correlates with the word containment, because we
Yep.
know the definition of containment is to keep something that is harmful to you under control
Come
and
on.
at limit. And we still to this day, the original black man, the original black woman, we are harmful to white society because they know that scientifically speaking, they will be consumed by the richness of our
Of
blackness.
who we
And
are.
you cannot stop it because that is the nature of the cosmos.
Most.
That
Come on.
everything that comes out of the cosmos goes back into the cosmos. And if the black woman is a representation of the cosmos on earth, and if everything that is walking comes out of that black woman, then we know that everything that walks will go back into that
To
black
her. Come
woman.
on.
So the white race cannot stop their genetic annihilation.
Come
It's
on.
prophetic, man. They come from the black woman. So they got to go back into the black woman. And we're sitting here talking as if we can control the work of God. Busta Rhymes said in his song, Brand New Czar, you can't stop God's work.
Nope.
Hmm.
And I use brand new Dazar for a lot. Look like he froze. Look like Olatunji. Kalonji froze. Now, good brother, we will talk. There you go. You came back. Now,
Yeah,
said
that's off the internet, man. I was dropping it so hard.
they said let's attack this brother.
Yeah, man, that's all it was.
They said let's slow this brother down. He freeing some spirits. Now we can go all night. Said me and Kalonji alone to sit up here and rock for some hours. How you
I
feeling, brother?
hadn't even
Oh
ate
man, it's
dinner.
all good. I'm with you.
That's
I'm with
good.
you, brother. It's all good. It's all good.
That's good. Now, one of the things going on to this experience, because we can elevate this and talk about that next level of living in your assignment. But now, and once you live in your assignment, the effect, the power of it, you affect. We said your family, their immediate core. You affect the community you live in. Now, because of you mentioned the internet, you affect beyond the boundaries. You affect the spiritual realm, the ancestors. When you are living in your assignment. Now, with this transition part, a lot of times when you have somebody who have lived the power of their assignment, where that they have that connectedness all around us. When that transition happens, because even in Corona, we've seen a lot of death, and I can't even tell y'all. In our community, it's been I call it family. It's a lot of people who transitioned over. I said it's like
Yeah,
a whole generation moving. They a
yeah,
whole generation. And so we don't know what the world is going to look like when this is ended, when this is over. And so there's been a lot of sorrow behind that situation where people were transitioned over. And this past weekend, we felt sorrow that we wouldn't actually physically touch them. But I've never seen a celebration of life the way we had a celebration of life this past weekend. I said, woo, this brother truly just entered into the whirlwind. Woo. What he was doing before he was here. Now when you hear and you touching that, you accessing your assignment. Because Farrakhan talked about measuring. We talked about this before we got started. You can't measure your life against someone else's assignment or somebody else's willingness to accept their assignment and what they're here called to do. But when they transition over, they transition because we got to the point where I can't even remember when it happened. When I stopped saying rest in peace. Ain't no peace when you got a people who are still enslaved. It's rest in power. We need you to go back into the Creator, connect back with the ancestors, line up with them soldiers, rest in power because we need to call on you. You talked about living to living. And so how can we getting to that understanding that once you said what I wrote it down. There's two things that you said Martin Luther King saying. We got to get rid of that our connection to money
the
and
love of
living
money.
with no fear. The fear of death. Living with the fear of death. Let that go. And Haitians have a faith where it's only the next level. It's just that transition. You don't want to go to war. That's why Haiti was able to overthrow the French. We would,
Right.
and looking at it, they said the Haitian brothers were diving into the cannons to stuff the cannons from shooting. And at one point during the war, the French soldiers, stopped to applaud because they never saw that level of commitment to being free. Said, we don't care if we die because that's just the next level of our existence. One brother and please, because his name evades me. It was before Toussaint Shakur came, and it was the brother before him from Haiti,
Gasoline.
Dessalines. And when he was dying, he said, "I'm coming back as a mosquito." It's okay, and white folks was laughing. I'm coming back as a mosquito because he understood this is just a transition. And what I'm gonna hit you with is malaria. All of them started dying of all the French now started dying of a malaria. That was a powerful mosquito he came back as. So understanding that, let's talk about now where black folk have to let go of that European thinking of transition to embrace the African cosmology that life continues. And we just
Right.
gotta go ahead.
Yeah, well, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful segue into this, and I'll just go first because I love how Pastor, he just breaks it down and gives us what we need to hear. So I'm looking forward to him. But I will say this, and I think it's important to say, when you study and analyze those individuals, you're right; they were totally committed and totally locked in. But I want to make sure we understand that because of the conditioning and the programming, you had individuals, and I don't even want to say his name right now because I want those who don't know to research, and that's very important because many people like to sit and get. But no, this is not a sit and get. This is tag. You're it. Go get activated. You know what I mean? So that you can understand. But one of the problems is that one of the men who was the leader, and I want you to find out who that was, he was so indoctrinated in a French lifestyle that when they carried him off to jail, he didn't think it was bad that he was going to jail per se, even though he didn't want to. But he felt disrespected because they took off his boots.
Ain't that something?
They took off his boots.
I remember
And
the story.
he was not treated as a Frenchman. He didn't see himself as a Haitian. He saw himself as a Frenchman. And now today, you have the French getting over 60 million. It probably don't went up to billions if you do all the math and the inflation. Now you have Haiti in desolation.
Come on.
Now you have them being ran by Negropeans who don't give a damn about gasoline because they want to continue to put premium gasoline in their European cars. And they want to wear their fine European clothes. And they want to be able to bathe their head and toe in European wealth because they have fallen in love with the love of money. And those who are fighting for the freedom of their people are subjected to death. And because many of them have been concentrated and conditioned and programmed with religions, and that's a big distinction between African spirituality, because religion and actuality, you can't even operate in religion, because if you look at the word, it means to bind back. So you have to die to practice religion. That's why we are a dead people, because they have us thinking in death. We're afraid of our death. We wake up in the morning saying, oh my God, I'm so happy to be alive because I ain't dead. Well, at least I ain't dead. And all of this. And we focus on death because this is a death culture. And that's why the richest place on this planet in this culture is the cemetery. Les Brown says it has more potential than anywhere in the world. And I would say the African cemetery is the most potential laden, if that's true, because we die with so much in us.
Come on.
When you look at Booker T. Washington, when you look at George Washington Carver, and you say to yourself how profound they were, I say to you, imagine how profound they would have been if they were free. Imagine what they would have been if they didn't have to act like they were Negroes. Imagine what they would and could and should have been if they would have understood who they fully and completely were and were focused on doing that instead of just surviving in a white man's world. Now, I say this not to anger people because I still want to be loved. It's one love.
Wow.
Is that it's extremely important for us to understand these constructs that have us focused on our death. We get these thoughts of what life will be like without us, who will cry for us, how our funeral will be, and all of this vanity rather than being and fully immersed in our purpose and knowing that those things will take care of themselves, right? And the thing is that the Messiah said, let the dead bury the dead, because he understood that the living never die. Then he says, it's some of us among us that shall not taste of death. And the reality of it is, even in African spirituality, the so-called death ceremonies, the afterlife ceremonies and rituals were complicated and complex. Not because the people were trying to be fake sophisticated like this society that tells you they're civilized and they kill 100,000 people with gun violence every year and more. Not this society that tells you that you can have an abortion and tells you that you can listen to trap music and gangster rap and all of this poison and you can see 70,000 simulated deaths on TV by the time that you're 14. No. They were truly civilized because they understood that the afterlife ceremony was necessary and critical so that you would be able to do the work you needed to do in the ancestral realm. We're so foolish, we're told that we're going to go to heaven and lay up and just be chilling. That's how retarded the nonsense is that we're told. Oh, you get to rest in heaven. No, you in heaven working.
Come on.
You in heaven working. You working, giving wisdom, giving understanding, giving connection, giving spirit, giving peace. You're not resting. What you mean? You doing more work.
Come on.
Because now you're not confined to this body. Now you're not confined to this avatar. Now you're not confined to space and time. Now you are eternal. So your work is one with what is eternal. Now you went back to source. And the only thing that is that which is. And that which is will teach those who are still in the ignorance of flesh how to understand what is best. Because we cannot see that, because we can only see what we see. And the reality of it is I can't even see my back. So I have to have somebody watch my back. And that's why we have our ancestors to watch our back and to take us so that we won't have to repeat what was behind us, because they say history repeats itself. And I say it rhymes, because we don't understand what time it is. It's time for us to listen to our ancestors, connect with our elders, respect them, get the wisdom so that we can begin to make a difference with our time, so that we won't have our mind so focused on death and destruction. And we'll start living so that when we do make that transition, it's not into the grave alone. Because in reality, and I'm going to say something, people might not like it, but guess what? When we go in the grave, hey, guess what? The maggots and the worms, they get to have their day. They get to have their day.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's an inevitable reality because we ain't getting out this thing alive. But we are going to continue to be a part of the living
Come on.
because we are named to be written in the book of life, as it says. And that book of life will continue to grow. And I was sharing this with Pastor this afternoon when we talked earlier. And I was saying that those who lived in the physical form with Malcolm X and King and all of that, they are beginning to see their sunset. They're beginning to see their transition, right? So we have to make sure that we get as much as we can of their mission and their instructions to us while they're still in the physical form. But I don't want us to be alarmed because I know that they'll teach us even greater than when they did when they were in the physical form, courtesy of being in the spiritual, because you cannot tell me that King is stronger then as he is now. Because all we got to do is go to Washington, D.C., and we see him standing 60 to 90 to 100 feet tall.
Mm.
He has his own day today
Mm.
in January. He's got more movies, and you can go right on YouTube and listen to a speech of Malcolm X, and you'll think it's right there today.
Mm.
So the reality of it is when it's real, can't nothing beat the real thing. And it will stand the test of time because that's what the truth does. So instead of worrying about our death and worrying about how we'll be and our legacy and all of this madness, let's focus on speaking the truth. Because one thing for sure is that the truth will last when all else dies
Die
and
out.
disappears.
Well.
Because the truth is the only thing that is living. And if we can give ourselves to that, then there will be a place and space for us in eternity. But it won't be because of our vanity and because how good we look,
Wow.
how good we smell, how much money we have, all the foolishness. It'll be our commitment and our sacrifice to live, to speak, to be, to walk with truth.
Mm.
And I'll close with this because I think it's important to say to elucidate how important our lives are. Is that each and every year we have a reminder, we have a birth date. But technically, if you really understand, that's not our birthday. That's our Earth
Earth
Day.
Day. Right.
We were already born.
Right.
We were already in our mother's womb, as we've talked about. And even before that, we were in some capacity, some shape, some formation, an egg inside of her and in our father.
Come on.
And what I like to think about is those seeds are living. It might not be a life that we describe or prescribe or subscribe to, but death cannot create life.
Come on.
Only life can
Create
create
life.
life.
Wow.
So the reality of it is that hopefully people will begin to see that even our Messiah, even Christ, when he went into the ground, they say for 3 days they was behind the boulder and things of that nature. And I know Pastor knows better than I. But what I'd like to say is this, is that resurrection was a sign of life.
Mm.
And I hope that people would spend more time focusing on his life than his crucifixion.
Mm.
Focus on his works
Mm.
rather than what he did while he was put on the cross or the tree or in the dirt. So we got to get out of the death thinking, out of the death consciousness and get into life consciousness. So that means we got to eat things that are alive. We got to drink things that are alive. We got to be around people who are filled with life. So that our network, just like our body is filled with arteries and filled with veins, and they call it the longest network on the earth. longer than the internet. And even our brain is a network
Mm.
of systems and processes that work in conjunction with one another so we can function. And if one of them gets out of line, it's just a matter of time before they all go into dysfunction. So I think that's an apropos analogy to use for ourselves in understanding that our health is our wealth. And that's because we are living. And if we are living, then we have to eat, drink, and think things that are natural and organic. And that's the essence of spirit. That's why, going back to what I said about those projects that they engineered so that they would get us closer to the love of money because we were in poverty, and then they would get us in the fear of death because we would ultimately be unsafe and unprotected. But they would put us in concrete.
Mm.
They would put us in buildings that were away from nature,
Mm.
that were close to polluted power plants and chemical plants that would put Monsanto's not only in our food, but in our air. And we need oxygen more than anything because you can live days without water.
Well,
you can live weeks without food. You
right.
can live months and years without electricity, but you can only live moments without oxygen.
That's right.
Speak to that.
Right.
We breathe in the breath of life. The breath of life. The breath of life. I want to say that one more time. The breath of life.
Come on.
That doesn't end just because our bodies go into the grave. That continues on and on and on because we got to get out of the linear thought of, your life started on May 12th, 1981. No, life never began because it never ends.
That's right.
It's
Life never began because it never ended.
It's until. It's until. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So the reality of it, and if you read, most of these spiritual texts, they'll tell you, we, as my brother said, he said, I am my ancestors. We put that on shirts. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. And we think that's, deep. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's real. Right. But if you live it like that, then you'll understand even something greater, and your consciousness will express something that will take you to even higher levels of elevation. Because the reality of it is that's the key. They disconnected us. They showed us in the movies. What was the largest film in 1970? I think 72. Please don't forgive me. It might have been 76, 77. But Roots. Yeah. And what were Roots about? Your connection to your heritage.
Come on.
Your connection to your family. And the first thing they did in terms of taking Kunta Kinte to this new place was give him a new name. And they didn't give him the name with gold. They didn't give him the name with food. They gave him that name with a whip. Because as long as he accepted that name, he would be a servant and he'd be whipped and he'd be a slave. Because you cannot imprison, as my brother said, you cannot enslave a free man. And that's what Kunta Kinte was, a free man. So he had to be taken away from that so that he could be made an entity that no longer looked at himself as a man and could no longer defend himself as a man and could no longer love his woman. And his woman would be confused because now she had to choose, am I going to love this man or am I going to serve the man that he's serving? And then the children that come forth from that union would be dysfunctional because they'd have to find a way to subvert their natural self to fit into their slave self.
Right, that's right. And that's where the dualism comes in. And that's where the misery comes in, because you know that there is a part of you that is free and innately liberated. Wow. And yet they are trying to make you believe the illusion of you being encaptured and enslaved. And so it's a process of being made to be a slave. For nobody is born a slave. You have to be made to be a slave. And that's the process of artificially miseducating the mind in order to believe that it is something that it is not. And the actions begin to correlate with the belief system. And so slavery is a belief, and it is not necessarily a entity, but it is a belief that an entity possesses.
Possess.
But brother said you dropped so much knowledge on us, brother. I wanted to go back to the concept of death, because death is an illusion. It's not a real thing. For we know there's no such thing as death. Only when you lack knowledge are you dead.
Come on.
But there's no such thing as death. It's life after this life, as you said earlier. As you were saying this, I often look to our young prophets and the young people in society, because we speak on so many different levels. Francis Cress Wilson said the subconscious level is the real language of the society that we live in. And when we look to our artists like Tupac and Biggie Smalls, I got a Notorious B.I.G. shirt on my wife bought me a few days ago. And as my brother Jay-Z said, the only the only Christopher we acknowledge is Wallace. And so I just want to say something and allude to something that he did. If you look at it, it was so prophetic. The brother's first album was called what? Ready to Die. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was called Ready to Die. And it was a demonstration of how our future generations that are born into American society has this infatuation with suicide and homicidal mentalities. And it is a correlation to the suffering and the misery that we're born into when we enter into this American matrix, that we are literally aligned and associating with death, because it gives us a state of rest from the oppression that we are born into. And so the brother was on to something, even though he may not knew what he was saying directly, but indirectly the ancestors were speaking through Biggie. Biggie said in one of his songs, "Biggie, Biggie, Biggie, can't you see? Sometime your words what?
Just hypnotize me." Come on.
And it's the words that we're learning that are causing us to be under the spell that binds us to American society. When we are taught as children in grade school, pre-K, and kindergarten, the first thing that we pay homage to is the sovereignty of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag and the United States of America and to the republic by which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty, justice, and peace for all. What we're doing is we're being hypnotized to have this love relationship with an entity that does not love us back, that does not respect us back, and does not see us as equals. And it creates this abusive relationship that Black people have with America. We have a very abusive relationship with America that creates this psychology to where we're trying to prove our worth to America, but it was not designed for us. It was not engineered for us. It was always engineered for the European who committed genocidal acts to take possession of this land to the First Nation people who were, quote unquote, people of color. And so going back to this concept of death, it's the reason why we're so infatuated with death and the black on black violence, the so-called black on black violence is just out of control, and you have young people killing each other, is due to the fact that we're speaking out subconsciously and indirectly that we are not valued in America. And if we're not valued, anything that is not valued is devalued, and you throw things away that is devalued. So in essence, we are really still being genocide. We just don't know, because we're the ones pulling the trigger, because their psychology is inside of us. And so we're killing ourselves. And when we're killing ourselves, it's due to the fact that we're under their hypnosis, as Brother Biggie was saying. The words of America has hypnotized us. We speak their language, we wear their names, we dress in their fashion, we eat their foods, we celebrate their holidays, we practice their religion. We have totally been, as Jerry Rowland said it, Brother Ajay, we've been what? We've been westernized.
Nah, westernized,
We're under that hypnosis.
westernized.
And that's what's called in the dualism that we're experiencing. And the only way to break that is to rid yourself of it. You gotta go through a purging process of getting it up out of you. And that does not mean that we hate. That means that we're identifying with that African that has been living in us from the beginning, because that's who we are.
Yeah.
We are an African people.
Come on.
And so we gotta get back to understanding the science of language and the origin of language. We can start calling these things as they are. Jesus said, the Messiah said, when they asked him who he was, he says, I am the truth.
The truth.
That's right.
I am the way.
The way.
I am the life.
Come on.
And nobody gets to the cosmos but by me. Are you understanding? And so we understand that African people, we're the only people on this earth who understood the relationship that humanity has with the Father, which is the cosmic energy, creative intelligence. And you can't get to that without us, because you have to be tapped into the network that we're tapped into. We are the first people of this earth. We are large in the internet of the cosmos. That was a movie, Avatar. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Avatar a few years ago. It grossed in the movie verse of all movies put together, Infinity War, the Marvel series didn't even pass up Avatar. In the movie Avatar, the screenwriter wrote it brilliantly that the Avatar people, the people of that land, the first native people of that land, they were tapped into a network which was the planet that they lived into. They were everywhere at the same time because the planet was everywhere at the same time. And so it created this omnipotence about themselves. It created this omniscience about themselves and this omnipresence about themselves because they was tapped into the network. Ajay, you talked about this on Woke Wednesdays a few weeks ago, how if you're on the internet, you're everywhere at the same time. The only way you can construct that is for you to start understanding the sacred geometry of the universe and the cosmos. If we can get back to that knowledge, we'll understand that we have everything we need in order to liberate Black people all around this world. And the enemy does not know that it's building it for us, not the other way around. We just got to utilize it.
Right. Right.
And that's powerful.
That's powerful.
Hey, you got to do a sermon on. Matter of fact, we got to do something on that. I'm gonna definitely be, reaching out to you so we can expand that, because he said hypnotize, and that's exactly what's happened to our people. We've been hypnotized into the wrong password. So it's just like if you and I were trying to get into our Wi-Fi, and I don't care what we do, if we don't have that password,
you're not
going to get into that particular feed, into that system, into that particular Wi-Fi. And we won't be able to tap into that frequency of information. And it's almost like, I don't know if you've ever traveled somewhere and, or you go in the distance, I hate to even mention them, but McDonald's, sometimes you go into their Wi-Fi and it won't be as fast. It won't enable you to get to certain websites. It won't correct. It won't work like your Xfinity or whatever you got. You know what I mean? It won't work like that because it's not built like that. It's not built for you. And many of the things that we've been using and utilizing, giving our lives to in our sincerity, we've been captivated. We've been in their network. And unfortunately, they don't have enough speed to handle our hardware and our software because we built different. We come with a whole lot more programming, my brothers. So the thing is that we got to tap into the right network that can handle our capacity, our tenacity. And then we'll be able to not only download how we were able to build the pyramids long ago, but we'll understand what the pyramids were for. And then we'll grow to be able to do the great things that we've been doing, but we'll acknowledge it and understand how to use it to best benefit us and ourselves. The thing that I share with brothers and sisters is this is extremely important. Is people always talk about they're going to start generational wealth and we need to get generational wealth. Like, no, no,
Come
no, my
on.
brothers and sisters. We already have generational wealth. We've been here for generations and we've made this country wealthy. What we have to do is remember so that we can get reparations, restitution, recalibration, and then use that greatness to create it for our own so that they can own and they don't have to go home wondering if they're going to have something to eat, what mama's going to do, what daddy's going to do. Are they going to be able to survive? Because they know that no, they're not going to survive. No, they're going to thrive. And they are going to realize their potent potential. One of the things that our people have been struggling with admitting, let alone dealing with, is that when we hear our kids' dreams, we automatically think, let me tell them to get a plan B just in case they fail.
Mm.
Think about that. Think about the slavery
Come
of
on.
that. I'm gonna say, think about the slavery of that.
Plan B.
Is that your child who trusts you, who loves you, who honors you, who appreciates you, who values you, who looks to you because you are their God on earth. And you say, no, baby, what about you doing this? What about if that don't happen? What about you working on plan B? But you don't realize what you have just done is you have oppressed them and depressed them and stressed them out because now they don't believe that they can be what the Creator told them they should be.
This is true.
They didn't just tell you that because that was just conversation.
Come on.
That's something that needed confirmation.
That's right.
And some would say, well, you're preparing them for things that are untrue. You're not being realistic with them and all of this and all of that. But let me tell you this. And I want our people to really understand that. Cultures that know that they are free, they don't put limits on their ability.
Come on.
And they will die before they'll tell their children to do the same. They're going to tell their children they can be all that they can be. That's why the Army wants your children. That's why they use the tagline, be all you can be.
Be all you can be.
Because that might have been the first time our young people really have heard an entity say that and mean it.
Right.
Children know this is very important that we have this conversation. And it's sad that our people will be tapped into all the garbage from the global wars to all kinds of nonsense, and they won't get this information. But the reality of it is your children come from you. You don't think they know when you're coming with lies? You don't think they know when you're filled with fear? You don't think they know when you know that you don't believe it.
You're telling the truth. You're telling the truth.
Wow.
Because my little girl is 4 years old. She's 4 years old.
Go ahead,
and sometimes she can be so pressing with her consistency of asking for something that I'll indulge in a little deceptiveness by saying, okay, yeah, we'll get you one whenever I get ready. But now, because of her intelligence and the maturity in her consciousness, she's starting to realize when I'm telling the truth and when I'm lying so she can leave. And so now what we start to say is, are you telling the truth, Dad? Are you really going to get me an ice cream? Because don't be saying it if you don't mean it. And so she's holding me accountable to the promises I make. Because I say that I'm the providing father. So if you're going to be a providing father, then you need to come on and provide. And I just find that so fascinating because the mind of a 4 year old can be a masterful teacher if you look at it and if you listen to it. But our children are definitely innately tapped into us, and they know when we are jiving, and they know when we are telling the truth. They know when we're sad, and they know when we are feeling good. And so it's always important to be honest with them on their level. Of course, you can't eat the meat that you can eat, but you can at least say the truth. And I've got to the point to where I'm learning how to say I don't know when she come up with some of these deep questions, because children, they ask why to the
Why to
question why
everything.
thing. If you give them the answer, they'll still say, well, why is that? And you give them that answer. Well, why is that? And it makes you have to go on this voyage of being Inspector Gadget or Scooby Doo in the Ghost Brigade to find out what really happened. You see what I'm saying? And so she was asking me something the other day about death, because our child died. We lost our son coming up in June 11th. May he rest in power, because he's our ancestor now. But out of nowhere, she came and she said, I'm sad. I miss him. And why did he have to go and be with the angels? And I gave her an answer that I thought would, put an end to the conversation. And she says, well, why is that? And it made me sit there and say, okay, let me give the real wisdom. And I said, well, we really don't die. We really don't die. We just go back to the cosmos. And he went back to the cosmos. And the next thing she says, well, what is that? You see what I'm saying? And before I know it, I'm in a full-fledged study with my 4-year-old little girl about her God.
Mm.
Because that's what she's really asking. She's asking, who determines when we leave and when we stay? And what does it mean to leave? And what does it mean to stay? What does it mean to be present in the body? Are you understanding what I'm saying? And absent with the cosmos. What does this? That's what Paul was saying. To be absent in the body means to be present with the cosmos.
Come on.
And to be present with the cosmos means to be absent in the body. And so if a 4-year-old child asks you that question, she's trying to say that my container can be filled with that information. I'm
asking for that information.
Right. And don't give me these fairy tales about some entities flying around with wings in no goddamn sky.
Come on. And as a youth worker, youth minister, and running the world of Akiba Land, and I always make the statement, what would the world be like if we can have that one liberated generation where we feed them truth from beginning to self-awareness, to where they are independent or they fully weaned off of us, start moving into their own zone, because then that's wisdom's coming. What would it look like when you can teach a child the African techniques to access ancestors, meditate and pray, interact, listen, because they still are at harmony. They say the closest one to the cosmos are the cosmos are the elderly and the young. So having the young come in, still fresh from being able to feel those cosmic and spiritual vibrations, and fine-tuning them from beginning to always, even when they're asking the questions, why? Because after a while, they're going to give you the answer. They're going to speak on things. I have a friend, and One Love, if she watches this, her daughter's 2 years old, and when I'm trying to tell you, it is something for a parent to say, I'm making sure I pull out the black genius in my child. And most of the time when people are having children, we're not realizing as parents, I'm here to lead you to the Creator as soon as possible. I'm not waiting until you're 18. I need you to tap in as soon as possible, because we need to have that entity walking in the spirit of the Creator as long as possible, because then that will help generate the most change that we need to see physically, to have them tap in there. So what happens when we come together, and that's what World of Keeping is about, bringing up that generation of black youth who are tapped in early. And when they ask the questions why, like you said, that my container is ready to handle that information. So what does
Yeah,
the
right.
world look like when they're walking in truth from beginning to end? That's a whole different black community. That's a whole different level of spiritual frequency that we exist in. The brother said, Frederick Douglass, what would you have been if you wasn't a slave? So then adding that, what would we be tapping into that spiritual Wi-Fi at 4 years old, giving her the access to her ancestors to hear, see, do, and respond to that innate feeling, increasing their antennas. What people would walk this earth now? You know what I mean? Just seeing it. I had a scenario where a niece went to my mom's before she passed. She said, Mama, big mama, I saw three people sitting over the house. And so the parents were like, wait a minute, I said, hold up. If this girl has the veil to see into the spiritual realm, ask her to explain who she saw. And let's see if my mother can dig up in the photo albums of the individuals that she saw. Because maybe she
Mm-hmm.
did see the ancestors. Maybe she does feel it. Maybe they speak. My mom one time was sitting in the house of one of her friends, and she was sitting there, and as they were talking, her eyes went across the room. And at the end of her eyes going across the room, her friend was like, who did you see? Mildred, who was in the room? What was happening? And it got to a point where she had to explain, I need you to call your father right now. Right now. And her father had made his transition and was walking through the house saying goodbye. Hey, I'm transitioning is over. And because my mom was there, her family was able to call up and add to it. What would life look like if we had black children tapping in early, understanding that it's from life to life? And as Seth was saying, that name, giving them their name where they born with their purpose from the beginning. Sometimes it takes weeks before you get in, and that's if you took your time, because you could have
Right.
a Baba Lao touch the stomach, speak to that child in the womb, and say, this is their name and this is their
That's right.
purpose. When we are deciding as a people to tap into our real truth, what would walk the earth? When they say that melanin power, what type of melanin power will we have then? If we could make that transition and that shift, and that's real, and how we look at that transition will say a lot. Because who says her little brother or sister? I'm not quite sure wasn't speaking, and that's why she could miss him. You feel me?
Mm,
She's feeling him.
mm,
I can feel him. Daddy, why do you have to go? Because at that moment, she's in contact and she's in touch. There's an entity, there's an energy there. I can feel him when you're missing somebody. When you're sitting there, my mom's gone, and I can sit and I can play certain music and feel her in the room. I'm like, why am I playing this
Right.
right now? Oh,
yeah.
y'all wanted to hear the music. I gotta go to the altar, light the candles, the incense, say the blessing, pouring libations, and I'm letting them party. I'm gonna let y'all enjoy it. What happens when black folk are completely tuned in to who we are?
That's right.
You know what's interesting, and I'm man, this is needed. This is much needed because as you were talking, brother, and I really appreciate you for opening up and being very candid about your experience with your mother. And thank you, Pastor, for also sharing your experience. And I want to send my condolences because we're still in the physical form and it still hurts,
Hurts.
right?
Yeah.
And there's no way that I can convey with word or in any way, shape, and form the pain that both of you would feel and felt and are feeling. So I want to send my respect and definitely pay homage to you and acknowledge the ancestors that we now have with us.
Mm.
And I say that to say this because we have to feel that because that feeling has been misquoted and mischaracterized as a pain that we shouldn't feel. And what I mean by that is just from my own personal experience. When I would cry over a loved one transitioning, I would feel bad. I'd feel like that was a sign of weakness. That somehow me showing that emotion was letting me know that, yeah, I cared for them and I missed them and I would long to see them again. But on some levels, that I was deficient and that I wasn't being what a man should be. And I sit back and I think about that and I'm like, wow, that's how confused I was. I didn't understand that sign of emotion, as we've been talking about, that energy and motion is necessary. If you read in spiritual texts, especially the King James, they talk about they would have a month. And Pastor, sometimes it might even be longer than that, of bereavement, of grieving, and they would cry and they would be morose, and then sometimes they would rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and maybe even put something on their head or whatever the case may be to acknowledge that pain. And I think about this movie that was called The Butler that Forrest Whitaker was in, and he was a young kid, and my partner David Banner was in it, and David Banner was playing his father, and he was in the field, and I guess the overseer went and killed Forrest Whitaker's father, David Banner. And if you remember that film, we see the young boy see his father get killed, and he cannot even emote. And the film was so cold that it immediately went to him leaving. He didn't even have an opportunity to grieve.
Mm.
And I believe that was reflective and indicative of what we have experienced here in this society.
Mm.
We don't
Mm.
have a
That's right.
chance to grieve. And even when we do, we got to hide it. And we can only go so long because we're on a time scale. We got to be back to work.
Work.
All the things that we got to do. Because as they teach you in this society, life goes on.
Right.
But not real life. Money goes
Money.
on.
Woo.
Money goes on. But life in this society is death.
Mm.
Because what they teach you is your life is only as valuable as the dead presidents that you have.
Mm.
Your life is only as valuable as how many lies and how much deception and exploitation and capitalization you can colonize upon people of lesser power. Your life is only as important as the rewards and awards that they give you in this society, that ultimately they're going to build you up to break you down.
That's
And I
right.
say all these things to say this, and I'll close, but I think it's important that we make sure that we understand that our ancestors that we used to have as children, I don't know if you guys had it, but I know my people, they'd have the ancestors on the wall, on the mantle,
Mm-hmm.
or they'd have in a photo album, and it would be religious, if you will, a spiritual activity to open up that
Open it up.
photo album and see Amy, and see Grandma,
Mm.
and see all your people.
Mm.
And somebody would tell you who that was because you didn't
Mm.
know who that was.
Right.
And they say that's
Wow.
that's your cousin. And all of those things would connect the tree, and you'd get an understanding of your root.
Come
And
on.
I guarantee if you experienced it like I experienced, you felt a lot more gravity. You felt
That's,
a lot more bonds. You felt a lot more alive
Yeah.
that's right.
because
That's right.
that's what our life is. Our life is in our connection to our family, in our connection to, as the brother said, our community, in our connection to the spiritual wherewithal and Wi-Fi that ties and bonds the networks that determines our net worth.
Work. Come
We
on.
always assume that to be money, but it's integrity.
Mm.
Integrity, and that integrity comes from knowing your being, from knowing your heritage, from knowing who you be and whose you be,
Come on.
so that when you think about these things and you say, wow, my son or my mother is gone in the physical form, but on some levels they're still here.
Here.
And what I have to do is incorporate each year, each month, each whatever suits, is a way to connect,
Connect.
a
To pay
way to
homage.
give reverence. That's right. And I saw that so much pain. I saw so much pain yesterday and over this weekend because people had lost their mother.
Mm.
And I'm so blessed, I still have her in the present form. And there have been times we didn't see eye to eye. And I realized that I was confused. And I'm so blessed that I'm able to say I love her and I say I appreciate her and I thank her so much because it's a blessing to be able to know that your mother's still in the physical form.
Right.
But for those that are able to say that she's no longer here, I want to say this, and I want to say it with love and still be loved, is that the connection that you have with your mother never dies.
Come on.
Because guess what? She gave you life. And as long as you're living, she's living. And she's living not in just some, metaphorical, metaphysical sense, but I'm saying that what our mothers do for us in developing us, not only mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but every lead that exists,
Come on.
and that family never leaves.
Mm.
It never dies. Because what
that's
a
right.
mother gives us is something on the inside. And the beauty of it is what we give to our children, it remains even beyond our own remains because that life force energy never dies.
Mm.
It just multiplies, or as the law says, it transforms
Forms.
and transmutes.
Mm.
So I think that what we have to do is get out of the Eurocentric way because the Eurocentric way has us focused on our death day, our birthday, and we have to focus on the fact that we are eternal. And
That's right.
that energy, if we tap into it by creating our shrine, by having a place and a space where we can close our eyes, we
Wow.
can meditate, contemplate, we can shed those tears, we can allay our fears by feeling that force, that divine energy that comes inside our minds, our hearts, our spirits, and heals us so that on days like Mother's Day, we don't get jealous, we don't get envious, we don't feel the loss, but we feel the blessing of being able to experience what that person was. Because I would guarantee and say this, because of you, I know that those persons, those individuals, those spirits that were in flesh for some time, that they were so profound, so prolific, and so amazing that I know and understand that if you connect with them in the ancestral realm, oh my God.
That's it. That's it. And
But
yeah, to jump onto that, one of the things that accessing that grieving is a part of showing as that person is transitioning what the relationship meant. When we said we got to connect as a community, the depth of your grieving, okay, now we still said emotion. That emotion that you emote is felt as they make that transition and they can see how much they was worth to you in the physical living. And now it justifies that their work that they're going to put out in the spiritual living. You have to grieve so that what you feel, they feel. So that as that transition goes, all that does in terms of allowing yourself to grieve, it strengthens that bond. So when you call, because now they exist in a realm in which they can be in all places at all times. So it doesn't matter how many kids they have. If all your kids call, it's an entity now that can exist in all of their lives simultaneously. That grieving. And they say, depending on the strength, African technology say, depending on the bond of that relationship will determine how long your grieving period shall take. It can go 3, 4, 5 years. Onaje called me on my mama's death when she passed. Called me to make sure that I was okay with this transition because he said, Jay, if your mama looking at you and the way you give yourself to God, the community, you had a mama. And I understand what you're going through, Ajay. I got and Onaji don't make a lot of personal calls. He said in the pulpit, in the choir, that's where I function at. So getting a call from Onaje was a rare thing. But when I got this call, it was to help me understand she gonna be there. She gonna be there. And every time he sang it was, I go down and I remember them stories. That relationship that you share with those who go, if you don't grieve fully, they start like, wait a minute, I'm sure. And that's why sometimes in African in technologies, you have to go make amends. You have to go bring back those relationships. Why? Because that grieving process wasn't enough to help them understand how powerful was that connection. So you got to mend those things. You got to do certain rituals to heal those things. Those breaches in communication you had in the physical will exist in the spiritual. So you got to do those things. My mom's always said, because we had a hard conversation because I was a rough dude at 7. The thing that and not everybody heard my story. My father left when I was 7 years old and said, "You're the man of the house." And so I existed in my mama's presence as though it was my house. And it was hard for her dealing with me because now I got to teach this little boy that he not a man, but he a boy. But that would never affect me. You had to affect me as if you're going to teach me something, teach me how to be a man because I'm a man. This my house. And so before she left, she said, I'm going to make sure I come back to speak to you because you're going to be the hardest one I got. Because when I leave, she said, you don't like to conform. Until she realized what I was conforming to. And when she realized, wait a minute, before she left, I need you to stay at that church. I need you to stay at the Pan-African Orthodox Christian Church, the Shrines of the Black Madonna, because in that space, you get the truth you need. You are truly your best self. And so when I understood how to do these ceremonies, I sat down and said, ooh, ma, you think we went to work while you was here? Oh, we about to go to work for real now that you transitioned because I understand the power I truly have access to. And so we have to grieve, man. We got to let them know how much we feel and the fact that their mission, their job, their work is not over. If you go to one of those connected Babalaos, they can sit down and tell you your ancestors are standing around you with their hands crossed amongst their chest. They're just standing there. Why? Because you have not spoken to them to give them an assignment that they can accomplish. They're waiting for your instruction. And if we don't focus on ancestral generation, if we're not grieving, and if we don't understand that life to life, they're over there waiting for something to do. Can you imagine living in an eternity waiting for your assignment for those who are still there, that you have left behind, saying, look, I'm here. I'm ready to enter that whirlwind. Can you please use me? That truth is much, much needed. It's much needed. My sister called me this week. And it was funny because Mother's Day and she was crying and she asked me for a picture and I have all the photo albums like y'all taking. I guess I took the Bibles from everybody. I got all the photo albums and she said, I want a picture. Can you send me a picture? I said, I'm sorry. I forgot. But Yolanda, look in the mirror. I said, now you've been to my house, and you're right. I keep that ancestral altar, and to say the same thing that happened to my sister. She had a stillborn, and when she had the stillborn, she went through the whole process: burial, casket, location. She went through the entire process to give honor to the baby that wasn't. And so she sent everybody, said, you have to remember this ancestor. So we all got a frame with her name on it,
Mm.
just a name. And so when she came to my house, she saw it, she was blowing tears. I said, well, you don't understand my spirituality, Yolanda. I needed to pay homage to the one who attempted, because she just wanted us to know that she's still here. She's on this side. She's a part of our bloodline. And she will get candles, my incense, libations, a conversation. I introduce her to her grandmother who's on that side. I bring them together. Why? Because we need the energy and wisdom of who they are. And they need to work together as that community that we talk about,
Mm.
giving us the vibrations of those answers that opening those doors. When those things happen in your life that you don't know why they happen, who you think is doing it? So being able to do that for black people starting early, like you said, 4. She's asking you at 4. It's important. Grieve with joy, grieve with sorrow, grieve with everything you got. Because life is life to life. And as long as we can function under that, then you can live in a state of hope.
Mm.
And
Ashe,
that's clear.
Ashe.
Living in the state of hope
Right.
in these times. Yeah.
I think with
Brother,
that
I'm
one, man,
full. I'm full. Scotty about to beam me up.
yeah,
I hear you. I hear you.
yes,
So before
sir.
we close,
Uh,
any y'all got any last words before we close out? Before I close it out?
Hey, I'll just say, definitely, this has been, as I said at the beginning, a privilege, pleasure, and honor. And I know the ancestors used this tonight. I feel like this is one that I'm gonna have to sit back and listen to again, because there was so many jewels dropped and so many different reminders. And that's the thing that I just really wanted to close out with is that all that we need is within us.
Mm,
We just have to be reminded. We just have to remember. And I know it's painful. I know it hurts. And sometimes, it comes to us in ways in which, we might not be comfortable experiencing. But I think we have to trust the process and remember that at the ancient saying, as the ancients used to teach, this too shall pass.
mm,
And knowing and understanding that we are connected to something higher, to something more vibrant, to something greater, and to something that will continue to show us that we're even greater than we can imagine ourselves to be. And if we can utilize those that were and that are living through us today, then I think we can make a better way for those that are yet to come. Because I really believe that if we become all that we can be, then we'll open up a portal for those that are yet to come
mm,
to elevate and
mm.
grow and to be the phenomenal phenomenalities that I believe that we are all designed to achieve. So I'm humbled and honored and privileged and pleasured to be in the presence of greatness. And I thank you, brothers, for not only showcasing your intellect, which is far beyond anything that the English language can convey in any superlative that I could say, but I also want to thank you for your emotion and for your heart and for your compassion and for the empathy at which you've shown that has let me know that not only is the black man one of the greatest reflections of all of those things on earth,
Mm.
but he is also part and parcel of the divine and the supreme and the celestial. So I'm going to work to be better, to be bigger, and to be brighter because I've seen both of your examples. And I'm humbled and I'm honored, I'm privileged, and I'm pleasured to be in your presence. And I want to take this last statement to say this is that all we have to do is look at our hands and we see the lines and the algorithms on them
Mm,
And we know that no one has had these lines. No one living does have these lines.
mm,
And no one yet to live will have them.
mm.
So we're one of them. And it's important for us to remember to bind back to who we are and whose we are so that we can elevate and shine bright like the stars. So we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it other than expressing one love.
One love. One love. Brother Kalonji?
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on, brother Sid. I knew you was gonna grace us with a shipment of wisdom, brother, and you've definitely blessed the entire atmosphere that we all dwell in, and I hope it radiates and vibrates throughout the universe and brings back something that is great for us. Powerful, powerful, powerful. We are Africans speaking the truth
Yep.
that we know and the truth that our ancestors have given us. And we know that we fear nothing, not even death, for death is sleep to us, as Jesus told them that Lazarus is not dead, he's just. Yes, we are
We
powerful,
are
man. We're going to
powerful.
keep on rocking, man. To the next time, everybody who's witnessed this, we'll be right back at you next Monday, and we're going to rock it again.
All right.
Shay,
I'll
Shay.
close out. My brothers, if y'all got to go before I end, I understand. So I'm about to step into the other side. So if you got to go
Peace,
now,
peace.
I understand it. But one love, and I appreciate you. I want to thank both of them for coming on tonight. Brother said, Kalonji always talks about him. You know what I mean? He always talks about him. He's always feeding, information. And I appreciate him taking the time to come out and talk with us. I appreciate Kalonji working, through his schedules to come back on the African Speaks. And I created the African Speaks so that the truth that is in us can come out. The truth of who we are can come out. Tonight, and maybe the next several conversations will be dedicated to the memory of our member in our community, Onaje. Onaje Kisakaze. Uh, love him deeply. There is nothing more I can say about a brother who committed his life to using the vibrations that was in him to help bring down the walls so that we can emotionally connect to the God in us, the God around us, connect to our culture, our heritage, so we can accept. There was a purpose of doing it, and that purpose was to accept responsibility for the liberation of our people. And you need those walls broken down. And so I thank him. There's more. He was one of the first brothers that I talked to when I came into the church, and up until till Corona hit, he kept an eye on me. He was coming around, seeing what I was doing. He was listening to the classes at Worlds of Akibaland, giving me my nod after the class if it meant something. He said, Jay, you're doing good work. And so it means something when those who have gone before look at you and acknowledge that what they poured in is manifesting in another generation. It's a beautiful thing. He put the work in. And so I will challenge you the way he challenged me. And he challenged all of us. Black people need leadership. When you going to stand up and do what God called you to do? Because I'm not going to be here for a long time. I don't know how long He going to let me be here. So when you going to get up and do what you were called to do? One love. Celebration of life. This is for Naja.
Do you ever take a look sometime? Do you ever look at yourself in the mirror and tell everybody, look where, oh Lord, yeah. I look around and I see the nursery. They done grown up on old Najee. But I tell everybody, yeah, look what the Lord done. I'm here to tell everybody today, look what the Lord has brought me from. Sometime up, Look at that. Sometimes we've been up and sometimes we've been down, but the Lord brought. It took a lot of praying, y'all. Oh, brought me. Yeah. Look where he brought me from. Look at that. I don't believe y'all take a look sometime. Look where. Hey, hey. I'm glad about it. I'm glad about it. I'm glad about it. I'm glad about it. I tell the church these words. I say, brought me. You know you're walking in sin and shame. Yeah, yeah. I tell you the Lord sure will. No matter how old you are, God will. When you're falling down, Rodney, 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 Rodney out. Hey, hey, yeah. Tell everybody. I tell everybody. Just look what God has done. We just want to sing just a little bit of this song. I want to get out the way. Lord, will you show me the way? Look ahead. Listen. Oh, Lord, will you show me the way? Oh, Lord. Oh, please, Lord, show me the way. Oh, Lord, do you know that I'm down here? And I sure do need your guide. Father, will you just show me the way? Let's say that again. Oh, Lord, Lord, will you show me the way? Lord, it get hard sometimes.